Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Leni x Lincoln x Lori? The movie. Huge shout out to Moretsuna Sora for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. A groan sounded as an arm slunk out from under a thick comforter, as a blaring alarm woke up the teenaged boy sleeping underneath it. After a few attempts to silence it, and missing, the arm finally slammed down on the snooze before the comforter was slid off of him to reveal a tan 16-year-old boy with 3 whisker marks on each cheek and a head of spiky blonde hair that was spiked out in every direction, defying gravity, as 2 spiky bangs framed his face. "I swear I need to set that up to play music, as that is a pain to wake up to," the boy said as he rubbed the sleep out of his eyes and opened them groggily to reveal a pair of ocean blue eyes. His name was Naruto Loud, and he was the second oldest sibling in a set of 12. As the boy sat up and got off his bed, revealing he was easily an inch or two over 6 feet and only slept in a pair of orange pajama pants, he reached up and pulled at a dangling cord which instantly lit up his room and also slightly blinded him at the same time. While technically the basement, his room was done up like the rest of the house, as with the amount of people he lives with, the basement was the only option for him that allowed him to have his own room. Which in a house with 10 sisters and 1 brother, having a room of his own was difficult but needed at his age, so he was eager to help his dad fix up the basement for him to live in. His room was the biggest in the house, considering it is the basement, and furnished with only the stuff he needed, so there was quite a lot of extra space. His bed is basically a pull-out couch bed that's stored away when he didn't use it, and was more comfortable than one might think given his parents got massive one for him. Elsewhere around the room he had a wardrobe for his clothes, an entertainment system for his TV and games he had bought, a desk for schoolwork, and a computer that his dad had gotten for him from a friend of his that ended up having a spare from an IT job he worked. It looked a bit empty given the spacing of things, but occasionally his mom would store things down here when needed, as it wasn't that much trouble. Before he was even dressed, he could already hear the pounding of feet 2 floors above him as the race for first use of the bathroom had begun. "Guess I'll use it later and get started on breakfast," he thought as he finished getting dressed, choosing a pair of dark blue jeans, Converse sneakers, long-sleeve gray shirt and orange hooded vest to wear before heading up his room stairs. He, like always, was the first into the kitchen, since besides his mom he was the cook of the house. "Oh, thank you, Mom, for picking up eggs yesterday," Naruto thought as he pulled out 2 of the 4 dozen his mom had bought, eggs and milk being the 2 things they always had to buy, and set them down just in time to catch someone who tried to tackle hug on his legs. "Good morning there, Lana, and what have I told you about trying to crash into my legs in the kitchen?" he asked as he set down Lana, one of the twin 6-year-old sisters of his. She was a definite tomboy, the opposite of her twin Lola. She, like most of his sisters, had blonde hair that was done in pigtails with a red cap backwards on her head while wearing a green t-shirt, blue overalls, and white sneakers. Though both she and Lola both had their front 2 teeth missing. "Not while cooking or holding anything breakable or dangerous," she said as he nodded and set her down, and ruffling her hair with a smile. "Exactly. Now I'm making eggs, bacon, toast, and maybe hash browns if I can find the stuff to make them." "How do you want your eggs?" he asked as she smiled up at him. "Scrambled. I like them all messy, looking like guts," Lana said before making her way onto a seat at the kitchen table before her twin was the next to rush into the kitchen just as he had started the stove and cracked the first egg. "Lana, don't you know how bad eggs are for you? Dad can't have too many, so they have to be bad," Lola said as Naruto chuckled and looked over at the other twin. Unlike Lana, Lola was much more girly, dressing in a pink princess dress with a lighter pink sash, purple gloves that went past her elbows, clip-on earrings, tiara, and fake pearl necklace. Her blonde hair, though, was worn straight. "Lola, Dad can have eggs because he has to watch his cholesterol. You and Lola are 6, so you don't have to worry. And if anything, they are good for growing girls like you both," he said as Lola's frown turned to a smile before she joined her sister at the table. "Then I'd really like sunny side up," Lola said as Naruto nodded, and continued making breakfast for his sisters as he could already hear them making their way down the stairs. So Lucy, how would you like your eggs? Naruto asked as he looked behind him to see his goth 15-year-old sister standing there, startling the twins at the table as Lucy looked at him. Lucy was definitely the most different of his sisters as she wore a black dress that went to a bit around her mid-thigh with a dark purple belt around her waist and a white undershirt that had black stripes on the sleeves. She even dyed her hair black when she was very young and grew it out to where it was now down to her middle of her back, mainly so that she could cover her eyes with her bangs, with a skull hairpin that he had gotten her long ago in her hair. She was also the most stealthy as she seemed to always startle the others by appearing suddenly to them. What are the most goth preparation for them? Lucy asked as Naruto rubbed his chin in thought. I guess scrambled as the egg is cooked and torn apart to be scrambled, he said as a slight smile grew on her face. Perfect, she said as he chuckled and continued to cook the breakfast before he heard a familiar happy squeal and braced himself as another of his sisters ran to hug him, this one not hitting his legs as this sister was one of the older ones. Leni dear, do be careful about hugging me when I'm cooking, Naruto said as he patted his sister's arms as she continued to hug and nuzzle her head against his back. Sorry Naruto, but I wanted to say good morning to my big bro, Leni said with a smile before she let go and let him turn around before hugging him again. Leni, while being 16 years old, was definitely the most young at heart of the older half of siblings. She also always gave him a hug every time she saw him again after being away for more than an hour. Not that he minded since she was his sister. While she acted young, her appearance made it clear she was older for sure. For her age of 16, she was just below Lori in height and ahead of her in breast size. The only reason he knew that was because of Leni being as innocent as she is told him excitedly as to her it was her first time winning against Lori. Thankfully she only proved it by showing him her and Lori's bras, showing Leni was a bigger D-cup than Lori, and not the other way she could have. Leni had pale blonde hair with side-swept bangs, commonly wearing a frilled turquoise dress, red hoop earrings, white sandals, and a pair of white sunglasses on top of her head. That's fine, just be careful, he said with a chuckle as he hugged her back, that being the only way to get her to let go of him before she bounced off to join the others at the table. Also, how do you want your eggs, Leni? He asked as she tilted her head in confusion. I didn't know it was Easter. Can I paint my eggs blue? She asked as he chuckled and shook his head. Leni sweetie, I meant like sunny side up, scrambled, over easy, runny. That kind of stuff, he said as she frowned, but it only lasted a second. Scrambled please, but can I still have them blue? She asked with an adorable pout that made it impossible to say no to. Of course Leni, he said as her pout disappeared and she smiled happily while clapping her hands excitedly. Oh, you're making eggs. I have the perfect egg joke, want to hear it? Another one of his sisters said as Naruto sighed and looked over his shoulder. You know the rule about jokes early in the morning and while eating Luan, Naruto said as Luan, the comedian of the family, rubbed the back of her head with an embarrassed chuckle. Luan was 14 years old with brown hair, commonly done in a ponytail held by a yellow scrunchie with braces in place to try and help her teeth. She often wore a white sleeveless shirt and a yellow skirt, yellow socks, and brown shoes with a pink flower on each that matched the one she wore on her shirt that was either real or a prank squirting one that she swapped out on a random basis. After the third time of someone getting squirted, they stopped testing. Yeah, no jokes while eating because it might make people choke from laughing, Luan said as she gave a little salute before she made her way over to the table. Oh, and can I have my eggs a bit runny? She asked as Naruto nodded before he felt a tugging at his pants. May I borrow an egg for an experiment? I wish to see the makeup of the eggs mother buys, another sister said as he looked down and smiled at Lisa, the second youngest sibling, as she was only 4 years old, but she was also the smartest sister of the bunch considering she already has a PhD. Lisa was short with shaggy brown hair with large glasses that she needed to see. She mainly wore a green turtleneck, red pants, and brown shoes with occasionally a scientist's lab coat over it. Sure, but you have to eat while you test and no requesting stool samples at the table, he said, silencing her requests before she could voice it, making her frown but not reasonable. I would like mine sunny side up if that is reasonable, Lisa said as she accepted the egg from his hand and he started making hers, already having passed out the food for Lola, Lana, and Lucy. Ah, dang it, I wasn't first downstairs this time. Guess I need to work on my speed, bro, his next sister said as she slid into the kitchen, losing control before he caught her and kept her from crashing into the fridge. Easy there, Lin. I'm pretty sure you're fast enough considering you almost face-planted the fridge, he teased as he set her down on her feet. Lin was definitely the athlete of the family, as she played every sport that her school offered and was on every team they had. Like Lana, she was a tomboy but definitely knew how to use her being a girl to fire off puppy dog eyes that she commonly used to beg her way into sharing his couch bed whenever she and Lucy got into fights. She was 14 years old and Juan's twin despite them not really being anything alike, but that seemed to be a reoccurring theme among the three sets of twins. She had thick brown hair pulled back in ponytail that reached her mid-back, commonly wearing a red and white jersey with a red one on it, red and white shorts, knee-high socks, and a pair of cleats. So how do you want your eggs? He asked as Lin bounced in front of him, showing off her extra energy, before stopping. Oh, over easy and extra crispy bacon, Lin said before she quickly hugged him as thanks and ran off to the table to join the others, leaving Naruto to chuckle at her energy this early in the morning. Oh, so you are up. I was confused since you didn't answer any of my texts, an upset voice said as he saw Lori, the only sister that was older than him, standing with a frown as she was holding the youngest sister in one arm with her phone in her other hand. Lori was the oldest sister of 17, a few months older than he was, and the tallest sister but still a few inches shorter than him with large blonde hair that she shared with their mom. She wore a light blue tank top, brown rather short cargo shorts and a pair of blue slip-on shoes. The giggling baby in her hand was Lily, and the youngest sister, at only 15 months old. She only wore a diaper and only had a tuft of blonde hair on her head. Oh dang, I'm sorry Lori, I must have left it downstairs as it died last night, and I passed out before I could charge it, Naruto said as Lori's frown lessened, and she nodded before walking over to hand Lily over to him as the baby had been fussing in her arms to get to Naruto. It's okay, but I expect extra bacon and some scrambled eggs as an apology, Lori teased as she set up Lily's chair while Naruto chuckled and nodded, making Lily giggle as he lightly bopped her nose. Deal, he said with a smirk as he put the happy Lily in her seat before giving Juan and Lisa's eggs as well as Leni her special blue eggs. Yours, Lin's, and Lily's should be out soon. All I need is Luna and Lincoln to come down and place their orders, he said as Lori nodded and sat down at the table closest to Lily to keep the giggling baby calm as they waited before pulling her phone out to text again. Did I hear someone say my name? A girl asked as Naruto felt a pair of arms wrap around his waist and a head rest on his shoulder. The girl was the last of his sisters, Luna. She was 15 years old and best described as a rocker, her outfit consisting of a pair of paperclip earrings, purple shirt that had a torn lower neckline and a skull on the front, a plaid purple skirt, a gray belt, and purple high boots. Her hair was brown and short with a pixie cut, the freckles on her cheeks most likely raised up as he could feel her smiling as she rested her head on his shoulder. She was also Lucy's twin and continued to follow the whole twins are not alike pattern that this family had going on. Just in time for breakfast. What do you want, Luna? He asked as he reached back behind him, placing his hands on her sides as he rubbed them softly, his way of saying hello since he couldn't turn around and because she was clinging to him. Luna, along with Leni and occasionally Lori, had to be the sisters that often clung to him, although Luna was more so at home than anyone else. She often hung out with him in the basement, as she claimed the basement had the best acoustics, and because she wanted to play for her biggest fan. You know how I like it, so just let me stay here as I'm still tired, Luna said with a slight purr to her tone as she almost swayed under his touch. He could even hear bits of her British accent coming through, something that only happened whenever she listened to music she really loved or was really happy and relaxed. Though her purrs only came out when they hung out and relaxed together, which he found funny. Okay, but you can't eat on my shoulder and I'm not feeding you, again Naruto said as he took his hands off her, chuckling at her whine, before he went back to cooking. Hopefully Lincoln comes back as I want to make my food soon, he added as Lori helped him get the other food to the table, as she knew how unmovable Luna was early in the morning, especially when Luna found him to cling to. I'm here. Is there still bacon? A boy yelled as he quickly slid into the kitchen, panting in exhaustion. Great timing, Lincoln, and yes, there is. How do you want your eggs? Naruto said as he looked over his unoccupied shoulder to look back at the only other male child in the house besides him. Lincoln, unlike any of the other siblings, has short white hair while commonly wearing an orange polo shirt, blue jeans, and white sport shoes. With him being the only other male sibling in the house, Lincoln commonly looked to him for advice or help dealing with the girls in the house. Plus, at 13 years old, he had the whole puberty thing going on, which was extra hell in a house full of girls. He also had the habit of talking to himself, but he wasn't going to judge considering some of the stuff the other girls did. Scrambled, please, and thank you, Lincoln said as he slid towards the table. You see, living with 10 sisters gets crazy, but at least there is one brother that I can go to, Lincoln said, making Naruto chuckle as he let it slide since they all had their quirks. Okay, Luna, you have to let go so we can sit down and eat, he said as Luna groaned and buried her face into his shoulder, not letting go, but at least walking with him as he made his way towards the table with the last of the food. I don't want to. You can still use your arms, and I'll take one arm off to eat. Deal? Luna said as she moved herself over, still holding on to him, but now clinging to his side to allow him to sit down at least. No fair, I want to hug big bro as well, Leni whined as she snuck her way under the table and popped back up in the spare seat next to him before hugging on his other side after Lori moved her plate to their side with a chuckle. It's always nice to see you kids getting along, their mother said as she made her way over to pat Naruto on the head. His mom, Rita Loud, was the in-charge parent between her and Dad. She commonly wore a pink shirt with a white collar and cuffs and purple pants, with her blonde hair being a shorter style similar to Lori's, something the older sister got from their mom. Oh, and thank you for making breakfast. I expect you'll clean up after you are done eating? Rita asked as Naruto nodded, making her smile before kissing the top of his head. Now don't sit around inside for too long as it is a great day outside, his mom said as she picked up her and their father's meal before making her way back up to her room after all the kids nodded. Breakfast went by fast, thankfully with not that much of a mess considering everyone was still waking up, and once everyone was done he was stuck with clean up. Not that he minded since Lin was helping him a bit, making it into a race of hers, which wasn't bad since it got it done faster. So bro, I hear you got this new sports game a few days ago. Are you ready to get demolished in it? Lin teased as she swung her hip into his to playfully shove him as their hands were full with dishes. Oh really? Seems like someone needs to be knocked down a few notches. Bring it, little lady, and you'll see why I'm the game master of this house, he teased as Lin chuckled and started to speed up. Just watch, when I win you'll have to do whatever I ask for a reward. One of these days I'll win an order and not have to listen to me, Lin teased as since she liked to make everything into a challenge, or a sport, she also liked to have a prize for winning. They both decided to make the prize one free order that the winner can give the loser and can't refuse. Naruto commonly used it to get her to help him with his chores, while Lin made him wear a matching jersey as her #1 fan or hold a sign at her games, which he still did even if she didn't order him to. All in all, it was friendly sibling competition that his parents actually encouraged, since it helped Lin expel some of her competitive drive in a healthy way instead of challenging everyone around the house at whatever they were doing. Done! Come on, let's play! Lin said as she quickly put the last dish in the dishwasher and immediately started to pull at his arm and drag him downstairs to his room. Lin was speedy as she quickly turned on his TV and game system, handing him the controller before he even had made it over to his couch that she was excitedly waiting on, bouncing in excitement to play and try and win against him. Okay. Calm down there, Lin, he said with a chuckle as he ruffled his sister's hair with a smirk, making sure to plug his phone in before sitting down beside her as she smiled and quickly started a match of the football game he had gotten. The game, though, was mainly for her since he liked to get games that he could enjoy with his siblings, from sport games for Lin to music games for Luna and others for his other sisters and brother in between, which were all paid for by his part-time job. As the game went on, while Lin was great at real football, he always had the advantage when it came to games. It always was close, but in the end he won, with Lin grumbling next to him with an adorable pout on her face. "Fine, I lost. What do you want?" Lin asked as Naruto's smirk made her shiver as it reminded her of Luan on April Fool's Day. Thankfully for her, though, her brother was tame with the order only making her wear Luan's clown wig and nose until dinner. Though that didn't mean it wasn't still an embarrassing punishment. "Hey Naruto, I'm heading to the mall, do you want to?" Lori said as she came down the stairs, only to stop near the end as she smirked at Lin, who frowned and glared up at her. "What is it?" Lin asked with a glare before Lori chuckled. "Well, it's clear to see who won the little match," Lori said, ignoring Lin's angry grumbles before turning to Naruto. "I was going to head to the mall to pick something up and was wanting to see if you wanted to come along," Lori said as Naruto rubbed his chin in thought before nodding. "Sure, I'll tag along as there are some things I could get while there," he said as he got up from the couch and turned around to ruffle Lin's wig with a smile. "And that leaves little miss here time to practice," he added as Lin gained a fire in her eyes before turning back to the TV to practice, allowing him to pick up his phone and head up the stairs to follow Lori. "That should keep her occupied until we get back," he said to Lori, them both chuckling as they knew how determined Lin could get when she wanted to get better at something or win. "Thanks for coming with me. I just find it so boring to drive alone at times," Lori said as they left the house and got into the car. "Plus, since you know most about games, to get a replacement for Lincoln's game visor thing that I accidentally stepped on when I was on the phone with a friend," Lori said as Naruto held his hand on his chest with a gasp. "Poor little guy, that is like losing a leg or something," he said as Lori rolled her eyes and playfully shoved him with a smirk as she started to reverse out of the driveway. "Only you would think that with the amount of games you have," she teased as he crossed his arms. "Oh, like you wouldn't feel the same if something happened to your cell phone?" he asked as she slowly stopped reversing before turning to him slowly, the look of death in her eyes making him scoot away from her to preserve his life. "Don't even joke about that," she whispered out before he quickly nodded, somewhat sweating as Lori could still be scary at times and her wrath was not something to joke about. "Good, so we better hurry to the mall," Lori said, completely turning 180 degrees personality-wise and pulling out on the road and towards the mall. Naruto smiled as he and Lori drove, their drives always being relaxing and fun, as with Lori being the oldest and him the second oldest, they often were able to relax around each other when the others got too much. "I'm curious why you haven't tried for your license yet, Naruto. I mean, you are old enough to try. Or is it that you just like spending time with your big sis?" she teased with a smirk as he shrugged his shoulders. "Well, yeah, I enjoy spending time with you, but also I just never had a need to, since you seem to enjoy driving and are willing to drive everyone where they need to go," he said, unaware of the usual tasks she made the others do for her when they wanted a ride. "Plus, you are a great driver, so I feel safe with you," he said with a smile as he watched her drive, looking at how well she drove the car from her hands on the wheel to her feet work with the pedals. He was unaware that he was staring at his sister's thighs as he thought over how good of a driver she was, which made the eldest sister smile at. "Gee Naruto, you going to keep staring at my thighs and legs like that?" Lori teased as she slowly slid one of her hands up her thigh, making Naruto's cheeks darken in a blush before he opened and closed his mouth, stuttering as he tried to explain himself before she cut him off with a laugh. Naruto frowned a bit embarrassed before he crossed his arms and looked away. "I wasn't being a creep or anything, as I was just watching you drive, though you do have nice legs," he muttered, not noticing the blush now on Lori's face before she cleared her throat and playfully shoved him. "Relax, I know you were just watching me drive, silly. Though thank you for the compliment, since Mom always says a compliment to a pretty lady always brightens up their day," she said with a happy smile as they continued their way to the mall. Their mall shopping trip was quick as they only came so Lori could buy a replacement visor for Lincoln, Naruto there to make sure she got the right one, and for other things Naruto saw around that were on sale that some of his sisters or one brother might like. He didn't mind coming along for a quick visit like that or any mall trip that his sisters wanted to go on, as his sisters around his age from Lin to Lori commonly got hit on by boys at the mall. Though with him around, the boys mainly seemed to back off. That, and he enjoyed spending time with his family as much as he could. As they arrived back at home, their drive back being peaceful as they talked and listened to music on the radio, he patted Lori on the back with a smile. I'm going to check up on Lin to make sure she isn't getting too into and upset at the game. I hope Link isn't too upset that you broke his game now that you got him a new one, Naruto said as Lori nodded, understanding how sometimes Lin got too into sport games, which resulted in yelling and her being upset. You best to keep an eye on her and pull her away if she gets too bad, Lori said with a chuckle as she headed up the stairs, and he made his way down to his room. Instantly he was glad that Lin wasn't yelling or seemingly upset as she mashed buttons on the controller, looking incredibly focused as she worked to win. She didn't even seem to notice him as he walked into the room and stood behind her behind the couch. A smirk grew on his lips as he got an idea before leaning down, softly putting his hands on the back of the couch before lowering his head to her level. He struggled not to laugh as he took a slow breath in before quickly blowing at her ear, making Lin let out a noise that was a mix of a squeak, scream, and gasp that made it impossible for him not to laugh at. Naruto? What was that for? Lin asked, her voice trying to sound angry, but the blush and pout on her face as she covered her ear with her hand not matching all that well. Sorry, you were just so into the game that I couldn't pass it up, he said with a chuckle, pulling off the wig and nose as he figured she wore it long enough, especially after what he just did. So how are you doing on the game? He asked as he sat down on the couch and patted the spot next to him with a smile. Lin pouted a bit more before sitting next to him, and her pout changing to a smile as she pointed to screen with a smug look. Pretty good considering I beat your high score, she said as she moved over to the scoreboard to show her name at the top. Wow! Nice job there, Lin, he said with a smile as he draped her arm over her shoulder and gave her a one-armed hug that made her smile happily before someone quickly ran down the stairs of his room. Naruto! I need your help! Lincoln yelled as he rushed in front of him and started pulling at his sleeve, making Lin frown as his arm left her. Whoa! Easy there, Lincoln, what's wrong and where's the fire? Naruto asked with a raised brow as his brother continued to pull at his sleeve, although unable to pull him up from the couch. Lori! Distract! Life and death! Human pretzel! Lincoln yelled, confusing Naruto and Lin only more before Naruto sighed and stood up, surprising Lincoln, which caused him to fall back onto the floor. Okay. Relax, little bro, just tell me what I need to do, Naruto said as Lincoln looked at him with glistening eyes with tears that he hoped were of joy. Distract Lori! Lincoln said before running up the stairs and out of the basement, leaving him and Lin behind to follow. Well, I'm going to go shoot some hoops before dinner as beating your high score got me all energized, Lin teased as Naruto chuckled and ruffled her hair before she ran off to the backyard before he made his way to the living room just as Lori came in through the front door with a groan. Did Mom send you out on an errand? Naruto asked as Lori nodded before collapsing down on the couch with another groan. Yes, like almost immediately after I got upstairs. At least I can relax now, she said as she turned her head over so she could look at him. What about you? How was Lin? She asked as he walked over, sitting on the arm of the couch, and chuckled. She was good, wasn't raging, but she beat my high score, so now she's out back working off the rest of her energy, he said as he could hear her whooping over, probably throwing a good shot. Want to watch some TV with your big sis and relax? Lori asked as she sat up and patted the spot on the couch next to her before Naruto smiled and sat down, making her smile as she grabbed the remote. Great! There is this one show that is coming on soon that I wanted to show you, Lori said as she scooted closer to him, leaning against him with a smile before he draped his arm over her shoulder with a smile. Is it one of those fashion competition shows? He asked as Lori nodded with a happy smile. You know it, and don't worry, I'll be able to explain it well enough for you to follow, Lori said before she reached into her pocket, most likely to grab her phone until she frowned, remembering that she left it upstairs. Wait, I got to get my phone. Stay right here, I'll be right back, Lori said quickly, already having ran up the stairs by the time she finished, leaving Naruto no time to stop her to buy Lincoln any time for whatever he was doing. Though from the sounds of Lori yelling at Lincoln to get out of her room it seemed he didn't succeed. I swear that little twerp doesn't understand not to go in my room, she grumbled as she came down the stairs, texting on her phone before she plopped back down next to him and moved his arm to drape over her shoulder again. Now come on, it's about to start, she said with a smile as she turned on the TV and shifted around to get comfy by his side while they watched TV. For Naruto, while the show wasn't his thing, spending time with his sisters was. He even went along with the selfies that Lori kept wanting during the commercials and even set one of them as the contact photo for Lori on his phone after she poked at him to do it with a smile on her face. He couldn't help but smile as he rubbed Lori's arm, making her smile and scoot closer to him before she was basically cuddling up to his side to get really comfortable. This wasn't an odd sight given being the tallest member of the family and a boy. A lot of his sisters used him as a pillow of sorts to cuddle with on the couch, even the straight-faced Lucy at times. Time always seemed to pass quickly when he relaxed and spent time with his sisters as, to his and Lori's surprise, dinner came faster than expected. The day had been moderately uneventful, but sometimes in a house with 12 kids that was a good thing. After helping his parents get some of the kids in bed, mainly Lola, Lana, and Lily, but once they were down he was able to relax in his room and finish a bit of homework that was given to him yesterday. Though before he could work too much on it he caught the sound of a soft knock at his door. I wonder which sister it is this time, he thought with a chuckle, as it wasn't out of the ordinary for a sister or two to sneak out and come to him. Most of the time they came because of bad dreams or because their roommate was noisy in their sleep, and he didn't mind letting them sleep with him as his bed was massive, and being there for his sisters made him feel like a good big brother. As he opened the door he smiled as both Lucy and Luna stood at the door, both holding a pillow in their arms, while he was thankful he chose to wear a thin t-shirt tonight as it was a bit colder tonight. Lynn is snoring again and I like the basement, so can I sleep down here? It makes me feel closer in the earth, like I'm almost buried, Lucy said as she looked at him before he patted her head. Go on and lay down, I'll be there in a second, he said as his goth sister slipped past him down the stairs, and he turned to Luna, crossing his arms and leaned against the doorframe with a smirk. And what about you, my most frequent visitor? He teased as she rolled her eyes and pushed her pillow into his face. Haha, not my fault since Luan keeps telling terrible jokes in her sleep and laughing at all of them. I swear they get worse when she's asleep, Luna said as she pulled the pillow back and crossed her arms, still holding her pillow in her hand. So can I sleep down here with you and I guess Lucy? Luna asked as he nodded and stepped to the side to let her in with a smile. Sure, come on. Thankfully my bed is big enough for 3, he said as Luna smiled and followed him down to see Lucy already seemingly asleep on the left side of the bed covered by his blanket. They were careful getting on the bed, Naruto choosing to sleep in between Lucy and Luna, before Lucy turned over and hugged into his arm with a slight smile, while Luna decided to hug onto the side of his chest, causing him to drape his arm around her before both of his sisters closed their eyes. As he drifted off to sleep he softly chuckled at being used as a pillow to sleep, but enjoyed it. It made him feel like a good big brother to be there for his sisters, since to him family meant everything. And it always would. Naruto groaned a bit as a weight pressed down on his chest and his left arm having the tingling sensation of being before he forced open his eyes to see that Lucy had shifted around and was sleeping peacefully on top of him with her head on his chest and somewhat hugging him. His arm though was in a much more precarious situation as Luna was hugging onto it tightly and pressing it against and between her breasts. Though then again it wouldn't be the first time his sisters clung to him like this in their sleep, as it seemed to be a trend with the older sisters in one way or another. Personally he didn't mind it all that much and was content in staying how he was, but, as his phone started to vibrate on the arm of the couch, he gently slid his arm out of Luna's grip to answer it. Hello? He softly said, careful not to be too loud. Yes, Naruto. I am sorry to call you this early on a Sunday, but a few people called in sick this morning and everyone else so far can't come in. Do you think you can maybe come in and help with the lunch rush until we find someone else to fill in, since I know how your mother is with working on Sundays given tomorrow is school and all, his boss said with more exhaustion in his voice before Naruto thought it over. Yeah, I guess I can, but I don't know for how long considering I have to be back by dinner, Naruto said before his boss let out a sigh of relief. Any help right now is fine as we are down 3 servers and 1 cook. Come in and try and cover while I try and get others to come in. I'll be sure to pay you extra for doing this for sure, his boss said as Naruto chuckled. Sounds good. I'll be there in a bit, Mr. Smiley, once I let my parents know, Naruto said before he quietly hung up his phone and set it back down. While working his job as a waiter at the local diner wasn't how he planned to spend his Sunday, the promise of extra pay made up for it. He frowned a bit, unsure how to get off his bed given one sister was on his chest and the other was now clinging to the side of his chest. Going slowly and gently, he started with moving Lucy off of him and to the right of him before moving on to the more difficult task of prying Luna's arms off of him. Out of all his sisters, Luna was tied with Lin when it came to the strongest grip, although for Luna that was most likely due to her time carrying around guitar and amp all over the place. He was nearly done removing her arm from him before she shifted in her sleep, which only made her cling tighter to him and even scoot closer to rest her head on his chest. Luna, please let go, I have to go, he whispered, giving up on not waking her and instead doing his best to escape and keep Lucy at least asleep. No. Stay and let me sleep, Luna whined out, not opening her eyes while she hugged him tighter. I'm sorry, but I really can't, I'm needed at work, so I have to go. You and Lucy can stay asleep, he said as he pet her hair, making her whine more and nuzzle against him. Not cool, dude. Stupid work, Luna grumbled, but giving in and letting him go with a pout as she opened her eyes to look at him. I know, but hey, I'm getting paid extra, so that means more money to spoil all of you, he teased as truthfully the majority of his money did go to buying things for him to enjoy with his sisters or stuff they needed. Yeah, right, you've been saving up for parts for your PC for the last month since you discovered that game streaming site and wanted to stream yourself more, Luna grumbled before he rose an eyebrow at her. Oh really? Then where did your last guitar come from? You know, the one you got after your last broke, he reminded her with a smirk as Luna quickly blushed a bit from embarrassment. Sorry, thank you again for it, Luna said as she did her best puppy dog eyes before Naruto rolled his eyes with a chuckle and ruffled her hair. Don't worry about it, just let Lucy know where I went when she gets up so she isn't confused. I got to go tell Mom and take a quick shower, Naruto said as he grabbed a change of clothes while Luna nodded and laid back down to enjoy the peace and quiet of his room. Mainly since it was one of the few places in the house that wasn't full of constant noise. Sundays in his house were always slow for the kids to get up, as even though it was 9 going on 10, nearly no one other than their parents, Lily, and maybe Lincoln were fully awake. Creeping silently through the house, given that one noise would reverberate through the house, he made his way into the kitchen to see his parents, sitting at the table feeding the happily giggling Lily. Oh, good to see you're awake, sport, his dad said with a smile as he looked up from the paper. His dad was named Lin Sr., and was often seen wearing a green sweater over a light green button-up shirt and brown slacks. He had curly brown hair, being the one to give it to a few of the girls, but it was somewhat thinning on top. Yeah, my boss called. Apparently some people called in sick and they need me desperately. He said he'll keep calling around to get others to fill in given how I have to be back by dinner. Is that okay, Mom? He asked as she looked over from her place in front of Lily. Sure, just, as you said, be back by dinner. Also, is your school work done, as I don't want you going unless it is, sweetie, she said before he nodded. I finished it Friday, as I always try my best to do. I'm just going to take a quick shower before I leave, Naruto said before he walked over to give Lily a kiss on her cheek and accept a hug from his mom. Be careful on the way over, okay, his dad said before Naruto nodded and gave a little salute. Yes, sir, as always, I'll be careful, Naruto said before he slipped out and made his way upstairs to take a shower. He was a bit thankful no one else was awake, as it let him use it first when there was loads of hot water. Though he had to be quick in his shower, as living with so many sisters they often were quick to need in the bathroom the second he or anyone else was using it. I'll be out in a second. I just got to take a shower before heading off to work. He spoke over the shower as someone was already knocking on the door. Sorry that it took that long, had to wake up as well, Naruto said as Lori looked up from her phone with a smile. Oh, don't worry, I just knocked to kind of mark my place as next. Didn't mean to rush you or anything, she said before he waved it off with a smile. It's okay, Lori, since with the others I understand why he joked before frowning at the time that showed on his phone. I'm sorry, but I really got to go since my boss called me this morning and needs the help, he said as Lori nodded. Really? I was hoping to spend time with you today, Lori whined a bit before sighing. Well, maybe I'll drop by later to check on you at least, she added with a smile before she hurried into the bathroom before anyone could steal it. Making sure not to wake up anyone, he slipped out of the house, grabbing the skateboard and helmet that sat on the porch, and quickly made his way towards the restaurant he worked at. He personally chose to get the job to try and help out around the house with bills or just to have some pocket money, since with a huge family extra money was always a good thing to have around. Plus, given his experience taking care of his numerous siblings, being a waiter was so much easier in comparison. The restaurant wasn't too far away from his house, so he was able to make it there rather quickly, especially since he was rather skilled at getting around on a skateboard. His practice riding around with his sisters, but mainly Lin, always paid off. Oh good, Naruto, you showed up. I can't tell you how much of a help you are for being here, Mr. Smiley said as Naruto slipped off his helmet. No worries, boss. Always happy to help, Naruto said as his boss gave him a strained smile, proving that even when stressed he still lived up to his name. Mr. Smiley was a tall, bald man with a mustache that always framed his smile. He had dark skin, wearing a gray t-shirt with purple circles and yellow triangles on them and a pair of dull black shorts, finishing his outfit off with a fanny pack around his waist and a pair of brown boots. All in all, despite his odd attire that didn't fit the old-school diner he owned, he was a great boss. I'll go get changed and see what areas are open that I need to cover before getting to work, Naruto said as Mr. Smiley's smile became less strained with a nod. I am still calling others. So far I was able to reach one other person who is coming in, and I should be able to reach more soon, he said while Naruto shrugged his shoulders as he walked towards the employee changing room. No worries, as Sundays are always somewhat calm for my family, so I should be fine until dinner at least, Naruto said as he went in to change, unaware of what drama was going to occur at his house while he was out working. Back at the Loud house a few hours later. Lin pouted a bit as she walked through the house with a soccer ball in her hands. Originally she had wanted to ask Naruto to play some soccer with her and be the goalie so she could practice, but according to her mom he was called off to work. Guess I can wait for him to get back, she thought with a frown before she perked up a bit. Or I can ask him to help practice my hockey shots after dinner, she thought excitedly, dropping her ball and rushing to the living room to see her dad sitting on the couch. Oh hey there, slugger, where's the fire? Her dad as she bounced a bit in front of him excitedly. Do you know where you put the hockey sticks? I want to practice some shots with Naruto when he gets back after dinner, Lin said before her dad chuckled and rubbed his chin. I had to make some room in the garage to get the van in there, so I think I put them up in the attic, he said before Lin quickly ran off up the stairs. Be careful up there with the loose floorboard though. He yelled after her with a sigh as even though he could keep up with her sometimes her energy was too much for him, although Naruto seemed to thankfully be able to tire her out. Lin smiled excitedly as she looked around the attic, moving boxes around until she pumped her fist as she found the hockey sticks. Sweet! I am so going to show him how better I got at my slap shots, she said to herself as she picked the sticks up, only to frown as the second one seemed to be stuck in the floorboard. Oh come on, seriously? She groaned as he tried to pull it out from the ground. Just let go already. Stupid. Floor. The grunted out before yelling in surprise as the stick flew up as it came unlodged when she gave it that final hard pull. She quickly used a nearby baseball helmet for protection as it flew up and knocked over some boxes that were resting on the rafters. Thankfully none fell on her. Lin! What was that? Are you okay? Her dad yelled as she groaned. Yeah, I'm fine, Dad. Some boxes fell. Nothing broke. I'll clean them up, she yelled back as she started putting the papers that scattered through the attic back into some boxes, hoping they were going back where they came from. It wasn't until she got nearly done putting them all away before she noticed something interesting. There were 12 of those organizer binder things her mom loved to use to keep things tidy, with multiple slots that expanded when opened. As she looked over them, she saw there was one for each of them, from Lori to Lily. She couldn't help her curiosity as she found Naruto's, hoping to find some embarrassing baby photos inside. Let's see what Mom hid away of yours, big bro, she thought with a chuckle before she opened and looked around only to freeze at the first paper in it. Adoption record, it read as Lynn's eyes went wide and she looked it all over. From this day forth, in the eyes of state, the 2-year-old child Naruto Uzumaki, the name found on the letter present in his bassinet, will be Naruto Loud and be under the care of Rita and Lynn Loud. Lynn read as could feel her heart hammering inside her chest. This can't be true, Lynn repeated over and over in her head as she rushed down the ladder. Guys! Come here right now! You have to see this! Lynn yelled as she found herself shaking a bit before her sisters and Lincoln popped their heads out of their bedrooms. They though were quick to rush to her once they noticed she was shaking and visibly on the verge of tears. Whoa! Are you okay, Lynn? Luna asked as Lynn shook her head. I found this in the attic. It can't be true, right? Lynn stuttered out as Luna took the paper from her, everyone else reading over her shoulder before they let out a gasp of surprise. Wait, Naruto's adopted! Lana yelled out in shock as Lori frowned and pinched the bridge of her nose. Wait a second, Lori, did you know about this? Lincoln asked as he noticed the look on his eldest sister's face. It's hard not to, considering how different he looked from all of us, Lisa said, getting all eyes on her. What? He has naturally tan skin and bright blue eyes, both of which none of us have. Plus his name doesn't follow the L alliteration our parents have followed thus far, Lisa added before Lori shook her head. Yes, I did know, Lincoln. It's kind of hard not to when Mom and Dad brought him home when I was 3 and explained it to the two of us. Leni was only 1, so they didn't tell her, as she wouldn't really understand, Lori said, frowning in worry at Leni as she could see she was taking it hard. How about before any of us freak out we talk to Mom and Dad, Luan said, showing a rare moment of seriousness that seemed to get everyone under control before she and Lori were able to calmly get everyone walking down the stairs. Thanks for the help, Luan. I am a bit surprised how well you are taking this, Lori said as the jokester sister shrugged her shoulders. Naruto is Naruto, whether he is adopted or not. He is always there for us and looks out for us. He isn't going to stop being important just because of this, Luan said, looking down at the floor a bit before she shook her head. We should probably get down there, Luan added before they headed down the stairs. Mom, Dad, they found out, Lori said with a frown from her place on the stairs as their mom was consoling Lynn. Her mom looked confused at what the sisters and Lincoln were saying since they were talking all at once before they stopped once Lori spoke up. Oh. Phew. I thought they found the Tauf. Lynn Sr. started to say before his wife elbowed him in the gut. Please, everybody sit down, and we can explain it. Honey, can you try and call the restaurant to see if Naruto can come home? Tell them it's a family emergency, Rita said as Lynn Sr. nodded and went off to make the call since he knew his wife was better suited for explaining this. Is it true? Is Naruto really adopted? Lucy asked, her monotone voice cracking ever so slightly as Leni looked up from the paper she had taken from Luna. And what does adoption mean? I don't know, but I don't think I like it, Leni said with a frown as from her siblings' reaction to it, and the other last name next to Naruto's name, it all made her feel worried. Naruto is adopted, and Leni dear, it means he is someone else's child that we chose to take in and raise as our own, Rita said as she sat down on the coffee table, while her children squeezed onto the couch with Lori leaning against the side of it. But he's our brother. Right? Lola asked as Rita nodded. Yes, he is. Just because he isn't blood-related doesn't mean he isn't your brother. He knows he's adopted, and yet he treats you as family and as special people in his life, Rita said with a soft smile. Truthfully, we didn't feel much of a need to tell you all since to you all he is your family. Lori only knew because she was old enough to remember when we brought him home, and she agreed once Leni became old enough to just keep it hidden as to Leni Naruto was her brother, as well, Rita added before Lisa rose up her hand. Mother, if I may ask, how did you come to find and adopt Naruto? Lisa asked as Rita frowned a bit before her husband returned. Tell them dear it should explain why. Also, I explained it to his boss and Naruto should be home soon, and I talked to Naruto for a second. He told me not to let the others wait, Lin Sr. said as Rita nodded with a sigh. It was during a rather cold winter. Your father and I were heading to the store while Pop-Up, who was visiting at the time, was watching Lori and Leni. We were coming out of the store when a homeless man came up to us. At first we thought he was asking for some money, so we got some ready only for him to get on his knees and ask, no, beg us, to help him before holding out a small boy, no older than 2, towards us, Rita said as she rubbed her arm nervously before her husband came over and squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. You see, it was a really harsh winter that year, Lin Sr. said with a frown. There were power outages and it even got bad enough to shut down a few stores. The boy in his arms was burning up, kept bundled up in what looked like rags, as we figured it was all the homeless man had to spare for the boy, who you can guess was Naruto, although we didn't know his name at the time, he said with a frown. Immediately your mother took Naruto into his arms before demanding we rush him to the nearest hospital. I agreed fully, and after assuring the man we'd help him, we drove off. Naruto of course was fine, and once stable in a hospital room I went back to find the man, leaving your mother with him, Lin Sr. said, noticing how all his children were fully paying attention to him. When I got there the man had fallen asleep but was grateful to hear the news and asked me one last favor. He asked me to look after and raise Naruto. He explained how for the last 2 years he had taken care of him after finding him crying as a baby in a bassinet in an alleyway he frequented. He knew he couldn't care for the boy as much as he wanted to, and as much as it pained him he knew the boy was better off elsewhere, Lin Sr. said, his voice cracking a bit. The moment after he asked me for that the man seemingly collapsed, and after feeling his forehead I realized he was even hotter than Naruto was. I immediately called an ambulance despite the man's protests. As we waited the man told me more about himself, how he was a veteran who lost his house after the grief of losing his wife was too much for him. I learned how the only family he had was his son, who had moved away and had a family of his own, so he never felt like bothering them, Lin Sr. said before it was his wife's turn to squeeze his hand reassuringly. On the way to the hospital the man told me his son's name, wondering if I could find and call them to at least see them one more time. I couldn't say no of course, but it ended up being too late as he passed away that night with only me by his bedside, he finished, his voice cracking as his wife patted his hand. Before he passed away he told me to make sure we got Naruto's bassinet, as it would have a letter containing his name and what happened. He also told me to give Naruto his old army hat and helmet, saying how much Naruto loved to wear them. After he had passed I did get in contact with his son Asuma, and we set up a service for him, Lin Sr. said before Rita nodded. But until then we talked about Naruto, and we could not leave this boy utterly alone in the world, so when Naruto woke up we talked to him. At first he was nervous and quiet around us, but once food was given to him he got less nervous but still stayed silent. Thankfully, when we brought Lori and Leni over he seemed to open up enough for us to explain things to him about how we wanted to take care of him, Rita said, chuckling at the memory of little Lori talking with the shy Naruto. We knew his name by then, as his name was written in the letter inside his bassinet and stitched into his blanket, although we had to get someone to translate it as it was in Japanese. Thankfully Naruto spoke English as his first language from growing up around the old man, she added, as while she could somewhat read bits and pieces of Japanese from what she learned in her world languages class, she wasn't able to make out the letter by herself. It took a while, I think a bit after Hiruzen's service, which was the man who was looking after him, but we eventually were able to adopt him. At first we had to wait though, the state deciding to make us the foster home for him for the time being while they try and search for his actual parents, or any blood-related family members. Irika, his social worker, was very kind though and helped break Naruto of some habits he had from on the street, Rita said as Lincoln rose an eyebrow. What habits? He asked as Rita chuckled. Well, he liked to save his food and hide at places, but it often went bad. He also tended to wear the same clothes for weeks, as well as his habit of finding cubby holes to sleep in. I forget how many times we had to gently take him out of the vents with the blankets he pulled in with him. Rita chuckled softly, as she still remembered the pout on his face every time they pulled him out. You mean the vents were his secret spot first? Lucy asked as Rita nodded, knowing of her daughter's liking for them. Yeah, and he actually took you in there a lot as a baby, as you seemed drawn to them. I guess it stuck on you more than we thought, Rita said, saying the last part more to herself. Oh, also he used to wear Horizon's helmet everywhere despite it being too big for him. We had to get him to dial it back after he kept running into stuff and falling over, Lin Sr. added, pulling out a photo album he had grabbed back when he was on the phone before opening it to show pictures of little Naruto wearing an army helmet that was almost as big as his whole 2-year-old head. I always wondered where he got that helmet and army hat he wears a lot of the time, Luna said as Lin Sr. nodded while they flipped through the photos. Whoa! He really was messy as a kid, wasn't he? Lana said with a smile as she looked at a picture of Naruto in a puddle of mud with a large and happy smile on his face while everything but his head and hair was covered in mud. Yeah, that was actually when he was around your age, Lana, and if I remember he wanted to wear his helmet while playing in the mud, but we didn't let him, Rita said with a chuckle as Lola frowned a bit. He still wears the cap, doesn't he? She asked as Lin Sr. nodded with a smile. He wears it a lot to remember how even people who struggle in life can do good, as well as a reminder to live up to the man's expectations of him to be good, he added as Rita smiled. So you see, girls, Naruto might be adopted, but he is still our family and cares for all of you so much. I swear when each one of you was little, Naruto used to care for just as he does with Lily now. He'd help us look after you and be so happy when each one of you came home from the hospital, Rita said as she and her husband watched their children flip through the photo album, commenting whenever they saw a picture of Naruto doing something like them or pictures of him with them as babies. She gave her husband's hand a squeeze as she felt her worry over them finding out start to disappear. They continued to watch for easily an hour or so before they heard someone run up the porch, and the door opened up to show a panting Naruto looking around. I heard it was a family emergency. I came as fast as I could once I finished up a few orders and got changed. I'm sorry, is everyone okay? Did someone get hurt? Naruto asked rapid fire as he quickly took off his helmet before hurrying over to the couch to look over all his siblings. His siblings could only laugh and smile as he looked them over, them all noticing the army cap he had on seemingly under his helmet. Sweetie, no one is hurt. The emergency involved you, Rita said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow at. Did I forget to do something important? He asked, making Rita smile and shake her head. No, as you see, while Lin was up in the attic getting some hockey sticks from up there, she knocked over some boxes and, well, they learned of your adoption, she said as Naruto let out a sigh of relief. Oh, so, what do you all think? Naruto asked as he looked at his siblings before Lin made the first move by leaping at him and into his arms. We think you are still our awesome older brother even if you aren't by blood, Lin said as she buried her head in his chest before Leni joined in on the hug next. And you will always mean so much to us cause you're our brother, Leni added as she buried her head into the crook of his neck from behind. Alright everyone, group hug. Lincoln cheered as all the remaining siblings dove towards him. Even Lily was able to hug onto him with the help of their mom, who along with their dad had joined in as well. The group hug, though, as great as it was, did have to come to an end once their mom alerted them to dinner, which would be soon. As his siblings let go, after giving him one last squeeze, Naruto couldn't help but smile at how well they reacted to it. He did crouch down a bit as Lola and Lana nervously stuck around after it. What's wrong, you two? He asked as Lana frowned. You aren't going to leave us or anything if you do ever find your real family, right? She asked as Naruto nodded. You guys are my family and always will be. The second our parents took me and I was allowed, and I'm not going back. Ever, he said with a smile before he accepted another hug from the twins. Now how about we help get the table set, since I'm sure it'll get us more dessert, he told them with a wink as the two of them nodded with a fire in their eyes that made him chuckle. You know I could find your parents if I had a sample of your blood. Do you want me to try? Lisa asked as she came back downstairs with a vial in her hands. No need, Lisa, as my parents are here. Whoever my birth parents are doesn't matter to me, as you all are my family, he said as he gently rubbed her head, knowing she wasn't big on physical displays of affection but hoped it would be okay. His smile grew as Lisa surprised him by giving him a hug, as he was still crouched down. I'm really glad you are my big brother, and even if your genome sequence is vastly different from mine, you are still my brother, she said softly, making him give her a squeeze before letting her pull away and adjust her glasses to regain her composure. Well, I'd better go put this away then, as it won't be needed. I will be back down for dinner shortly, so please let Mother know, Lisa said as Naruto nodded and stood up. Sure thing, Lisa, don't take too long finishing off any experiment, he said as he caught a quick glance of a smile on her face before she made her way back up. Naruto? Leni said as she popped her head out from the dining room with a frown. Is it okay if I bunk in your room tonight? She asked as he nodded and walked over to her with a smile. Of course, you all are welcome any time in my room, he said before Leni rushed forward to hug him again, making him smile softly as he hugged her back and pet her head. I am afraid. I don't want you to suddenly leave or anything, she whispered out as Naruto understood what she meant. She was afraid of him one day possibly finding his real family and going away, but he honestly could never see that happening, not even if they were some weird kind of royalty. Leni, I'm never going to leave you or anyone else, I promise. You all are my family and mean so much to me, he said as he softly kissed the top of Leni's head, a display of affection he gave out when a sister was upset and he wanted to console them. Now how about you go and save us a seat? I'll sit next to you tonight, okay? He said as Leni smiled up from his chest. Okay, I love sitting next to you. I'll go save our seats right now, she said excitedly as Naruto smiled as Leni rushed off. He chuckled a bit as he felt someone else hug him, her arms going around his waist due to her height before he looked back to see Lucy looking up at him. You never forget about me, always notice me when I enter a room, support my dark ways, and even know my darkest secret as well as help me with it, so to me you are of my coven and more than blood, Lucy said with a straight face before Naruto crouched down again and smiled at her. That really means a lot to me, Lucy, and I will always support you and notice you, he said as he ruffled her hair, making the straight-faced girl crack a barely noticeable smile. You know I could probably find a blood ritual to make you related to us by blood if you like. Though the side effect might make you a demon, Lucy said with a smile still on her face, which made Naruto chuckle as this was her version of a joke. I'll think about it, he teased before she nodded. Let me know if you choose yes. I've always wanted to be related to a demon, she said in her usual flat tone before walking off, making Naruto roll his eyes with a smirk before he noticed Lori leaning against the archway leading towards the dining room. They took it much better than I thought. Especially Leni, Lori said as she came over towards him with a soft smile. She had me worried for a moment, but she seemed to come out from it when Mom explained everything, Lori said while Naruto nodded. They all seemed to be handling it pretty well and in their own ways. I didn't really expect it to get revealed like this, or revealed at all, though it does take a weight off my shoulders, he said as he always felt odd keeping it a secret. He understood why, since it was easier to have them naturally think of him as a brother than explain it to them, and hope they did. Mine as well, but as the others have probably told you already, you are very special to us all and you always will be, Lori said as she pulled him in for another hug. It means a lot to hear that from all of you, so I don't mind hearing it multiple times, he said, making Lori chuckle before she pulled away with a smirk. Well, you still have a few sisters and a brother that hasn't come up to you yet, so you'll no doubt hear it more before bedtime, Lori teased as he nodded before their mom walked out with a smile. Don't forget a mom and dad as well, Rita said with a smile as she gently took his hat off and kissed his forehead with a smile. We have loved every moment you have been in our family, sweetie. Now can you maybe help get the food on the table? I decided today was a complete family dinner kind of day with no kiddie table, as all of them have sworn to be on their best behavior, she said as Naruto nodded and slipped his hat into his pocket. Got it, I'll go help Dad to make sure he doesn't trip or anything, Naruto said as he hurried off to the kitchen just in time to help his dad not drop the ham onto the floor. Whoa, thanks for the save there, as your mother would have killed me. Now let's get this on the table as everybody seems really hungry tonight, Lin Sr. said as they carried the ham out of the kitchen and onto the table where Leni was excitedly waving towards him. I saved a seat for you and Luna helped, Leni said as their rocker sister smiled at him. Thanks Leni, and thanks as well Luna, Naruto said as he sat in between the two of them. Anything for my brother. I mean, you support my rocker life and come to literally all my shows. You being adopted doesn't change anything as you'll always be someone special to me, Luna said with a smirk, as she playfully bumped him with her shoulder before leaning against him a bit, which Leni mirrored with a happy smile of her own. Dinner was a bit hectic, which was to be expected on any normal day in their house, but like all the other craziness his house was filled with, it was comforting. Even the relaxation of watching TV after dinner was hectic, though he wasn't taking part in it, as after everything he felt wrong to leave Luan to clean up alone. If you want you can go and join them. I've got this handled, Luan said with a smirk as she waved a pot at him, pointing to the handle of it while winking at him, making him let out a slight chuckle. Good one, but I'd feel bad leaving it all to you after all. I can't leave my fellow prankster high and dry, he teased as whenever April Fool's Day rolled around the two of them always battled in pranks. She'd try and prank him while he tried to prank her, but he at least let the family seek refuge in his room as it was more just between the two of them. Well thanks bro, means a lot, Luan said as she bumped her hip against him playfully with a smile. You know, when Lin first started freaking out after she found the papers I was a bit shocked, but at the same time it didn't impact me much, Luan said as she looked over at him from the corner of her eye. To me you've always been yourself and family. You get along so well with all of us, and even if you are adopted you've been allowed since long ago. I guess this is me saying thanks for being an awesome bro, she said with a smirk as she splashed some water at him. Anytime, Luan. You guys all mean a lot to me, he said before he splashed her back, getting a grin on her face that he knew meant trouble. It of course quickly evolved into them flinging bubbles from the sink at one another until their shirts and faces were covered in bubbles, which made them break out in laughter. Of course the dishes did get done, but that didn't mean they couldn't mess around a bit. Thanks for the help again, Naruto, and I promise this war is far from over, Luan teased before she pulled him in for a hug, something he was used to getting in abundance of today from everyone, not that he minded since they were his family. Be careful who you challenge. I'm not one to lose, he teased back before Luan rushed off, letting out her best evil laugh that made him roll his eyes a bit at, since Luan was one for dramatics. Does that laugh spell trouble for us or just you? Lincoln asked as he walked into the kitchen while staring up at the ceiling as Luan's laugh continued through the house before stopping as the sound of a door closing was heard. And not trouble, as she knows to keep things like this toned down, Naruto said as this wasn't the first war he and Luan had, but at most they ended up with them both a mess and minimal collateral damage. Hey Naruto? Can I ask you something? Lincoln asked as Naruto nodded. You always can, little bro, what's up? Naruto asked while he ruffled his little brother's hair with a smirk. Do you ever wonder who your parents are or what your life would be if you had been raised by them? Lincoln asked as he looked up at Naruto, frowning a bit as Naruto grew a frown as well. Truthfully, no. The only parents I have are our mom and dad, and even before that it was always Hiruzen. I don't know who they are, and I'm not in a big need to know. I have a wonderful family, a wonderful life, and I would never trade it for anything, Naruto said as he grew a massive grin. Does that answer your question? He asked as Lincoln nodded with a smile before hugging him. Yeah, thanks Naruto. I'm really happy you're my brother, Lincoln said while Naruto hugged him back. And I'm happy you all are my family. Now you better head to bed as school is tomorrow, and you always know how hectic mornings are in this house, he said as Lincoln nodded. See you in the morning, bro, Lincoln said as he hurried upstairs, hoping to get to use the bathroom before a line formed. He couldn't help but smile as Leni walked back into the kitchen, clutching her pillow as she wore her pajamas. Are ready to go to bed, Leni? He asked as she nodded with a smile. Can we maybe bunk down there with you as well? Lin asked as she stepped out from behind Leni, with Lola and Lana appearing from the other side of Leni, all holding pillows and in their pajamas. Of course, my room is always open to any of you. Go on down. The bed might not be pulled out as Luna and Lucy were still down there when I left for work and most likely put it away, Naruto said as Lana bounced a bit. I got it for you, Lana said with a smile before she, Lola, and Leni walked down, leaving him with Lin, who nervously held her pillow. Are you okay, Lin? He asked as she nodded, her pillow covering her mouth so he couldn't see if she was frowning or not. Why didn't you ever tell us about this? Lin asked as she looked up from the ground she had been staring at and looked at him with a frown. Well, we just never thought we needed to. To you all, I was your brother, so there wasn't any need to. It wasn't hidden from you maliciously, but I'm sorry for upsetting you by hiding it, he said with a frown before he quickly braced himself as Lin flew at him and hugged him tightly. It's not your fault. I was just afraid that because you were adopted you might go away or something, she mumbled into his chest as he pet her head. You are always the one helping me with my sports and the first to show up at my games and practices. I was afraid how things would change without you around, she said, burying her face deeper in his chest before he gently pulled her back and ruffled her hair softly. I promise I won't go away, as you all are my family. You know I always keep my promises, right? He asked before Lin nodded. Then you know I'm good for this promise. You don't have to worry. Now how about we get to bed? He said while she nodded and followed him downstairs to his bedroom to see the bed was pulled out, and the others were waiting for them with a smile. Alright, now we got to get to bed for school tomorrow, so let's get to bed, he said with a smile as he plugged the charger into his phone and made sure the alarm was set before he decided to lay in the middle of the bed. It didn't take long before his sisters, mainly Lana and Lin, pounced on him. Lin seemed to claim his right arm while Lana got his right leg, leaving Leni his left arm and Lola his left leg. The twins put their pillows over his legs while Leni and Lin used him directly as their pillow. Truthfully, he was used to this, as for as long as he could remember he has been used as a pillow by his sisters whenever they bunked with him. Although oddly, when all of his sisters slept on his bed, which often happened during rain or snowstorms, they weren't as hectic as he thought they'd be when trying to find a place to lay on him. A part of him thought they decided things ahead of time, but he had no proof to it. Night, girls, Naruto said with a chuckle before he felt each sister adjust their heads on him. Night, Naruto, they said as he smiled softly before sleep gradually took him. Next day during school, Naruto let out a groan as school was always so boring. Plus the wildness of the mornings of getting his sisters out of the house had him tired already. He and Lincoln were easily able to get everyone out the door with minimal stress, but he was still tired. Thankfully, though, next was lunch, which meant food and some time to relax that wouldn't end with him getting yelled at. As the bell rang, as much as he wanted to rush off to the cafeteria, he instead chose to wait in front of his classroom. He didn't have to wait long before Leni noticed him and hurried his way, latching onto his arm once again before they made their way towards the cafeteria. This had all started once they got to school and Leni first clung to him, and only explained why she was doing this as "'cause I want to, and I feel safer this way," which he didn't really have any room to deny her if that was why. Though he figured it more had to do with the events of yesterday, as Leni had somewhat woken him up in the middle of the night due to how tightly she clung to him as well as her squirming from an apparent bad dream. If this put her fears at ease, then he was definitely fine with it. Ready to go get some lunch? He asked as Leni nodded with a happy smile before they started to make their way through the hallway of their high school. Yo, Naruto dude, I saved you guys a seat. A male voice yelled out as Naruto looked over to wave back at one of his best friends waving at them. The man was tall with tan skin and black hair with a tuft of it combed upwards. He wore a pair of blue jeans, brown shoes, a cream t-shirt, and a green unbuttoned long-sleeve shirt. Thanks, Bobby. We'll be right over once we get our food, Naruto said as his friend nodded and he and Leni went towards the lunch line. Bobby was Naruto's closest and longest friend that has been by his side since basically his first day at elementary school. Bobby was incredibly reliable and someone Naruto could rely on to help if ever needed. He had a bit of trouble keeping down a job due to the fact he was texting or on the phone with his girlfriend, but that didn't keep him from always finding another one rather quickly. By the time he and Leni got to the table, he smiled as he saw Lori already there, and sitting beside Carol as she and Bobby flirted like they always did. Luna and Juan, who sometimes joined them for lunch, were most likely practicing their songs and jokes respectively. Carol was a sweet girl and definitely cared for and loved Bobby, who had applied for all his jobs to pay for their dates as well as presents for her. At first his sister and Carol Pingree didn't get along whatsoever for as long as he could remember. He never understood their rivalry, but it stuck around about until the time Bobby and Carol started dating. That was when, all of a sudden, the two were best friends almost and were often seen talking around school. Sure, she and Lori still had healthy rivalry when it came to things like homecoming queen and whatnot, but it never heated anything past just friendly rivalry. He was confused about the sudden change, but due to living with so many girls, he quickly learned to not question things like this. "Hey there, Naruto, how have you been? I hear from Lori your house had some excitement yesterday," Bobby said, unaware of what had happened as there wasn't much need to spread it around. "I'm good, and yeah, excitement is one way to put it," he said with a chuckle as Carol smiled at them. "Well, it had to be something to get Leni to cling to you like that. She only really does that when she's scared," Carol said as they looked over at Leni, who was happily eating her food as one arm still hugged onto Naruto's arm. "Something like that, but excitement is a common thing in our house," Lori said as she looked up from her phone with a smile, while he could only nod along in agreement. The rest of school went as well as most Mondays did, slow and boring, until Lori took Leni home with her alongside his other sisters. He begrudgingly had to stay behind at school to check out a book for help on a project, but after finding it he was quick to head home since after the events he knew his sisters would still be riled up a bit. The walk home was a bit slow, mostly due to him not having his skateboard, but it was relaxing as after everything of yesterday when he had come home it was a nice simple breather, which in a house full of so many people was a definite necessity. As he eventually made it home, he raised an eyebrow at the familiar figure, one that was often seen whenever he hung out at Bobby's house, standing in his house's front yard with her back towards him. Her name was Ronnie Ann and was Bobby's younger sister, who happened to be the same age as Lincoln, and was someone he got to know over his years of friendship with her brother. She was a pretty cute little girl with darker tan skin than her brother, with freckles on her cheeks and her black hair worn in a ponytail. She wore a purple hooded sweatshirt, jean shorts, and purple shoes with pink socks worn high. He smiled as he sneaked up behind the girl before getting it to where he was just behind her. "What are you doing here, Ronnie Ann?" Naruto asked, chuckling as the girl nearly jumped into the air with a scream. "Naruto! Don't scare me like that, you jerk!" Ronnie Ann stuttered out, clearly surprised and a bit embarrassed from her scream as her face was bright red, before she smacked his arm and crossed hers as she was visibly upset. "I'm sorry, I just couldn't help myself. It was a golden opportunity, and you so would have done the same," Naruto told her with a smirk, taking her turning of her head to the side paired with the silence to show she knew he was right. "So anyways, why are you here? You know, if you wanted to hang out with me all you had to do was go inside," Naruto said as he ruffled her hair, causing the small girl to blush even more. "I'm here to see your brother Lemo. He couldn't handle my pranks and called me out to talk," Ronnie and told him, making him nod as he figured he might have taught her too well when it came to pranks, just like how it ended up with Lon a bit. Well, my brother can let things get to him, but you also have to realize not everyone can handle pranks. Everyone has different amounts they can handle, so how about you dial it down a bit?" "For me?" Naruto asked, crouching down to her level to look her in the eyes with a smile, his hands still on top of her head while she frowned but nodded. "Okay, I guess I can, for you," Ronnie said, quickly turning around once their eyes met for a moment to quickly hide her even darker blush from him. Thanks, Ronnie, it means a lot," Naruto said, quickly wrapping her in a hug, something he did to often tease her, before she seemingly jolted up and wiggled out of his arms. "Shut up. I have to go home. Tell Lemo I'll leave him alone," she stuttered out before booking it down the street, Naruto swearing her ears had turned red. See you next time I come over, he yelled back, finding her habit of blushing around him odd but cute, although he never understood what he did to make her so angry that she got red in the face like that. He merely gave a shrug as he saw her wave, showing she at least heard him before he headed back inside. Oh! Naruto, you showed up at the best time. Lincoln is about to kiss the girl who likes him, Lori said as she pulled him to the side, allowing Lincoln to walk towards the door. Wait, kiss her? I don't think that was the plan. Ronnie and is just a fellow prankster like me and Juan. She, like we do at times, got a bit too out of control, but I feel that is mainly my fault for being Lincoln's older brother, Naruto said as he explained it to them, making the sisters frown as he knew what they were like when it came to bullies and romance, which meant that they meddled and meddled hard at that. Sorry little bro, but you'll be thankful as I know Ronnie, and if you would have tried to kiss her you seriously might have gotten punched hard by her, Naruto said, ruffling his hair as Lincoln looked relieved that he got saved from getting punched by her. Thanks bro, Lincoln said with a smile as he knew as best as anyone that these kinds of odd situations were normal considering the craziness of their house on a normal day. Naruto though couldn't help but smile as some might call him weird, but to him, this oddness was perfect, and he wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I hate your alarm, Naruto, so much. I was having the perfect dream, Luna groaned out as she leaned over Naruto to turn off his alarm, falling on top of him after silencing the alarm, her head face down beside his with her arms now wrapping around his chest. You see, bro? This is so much better, Luna purred out, his hands going to her back to rub it softly, which only made her purr more and nuzzle her face in the crook of his neck. As much as being lazy in bed all morning sounds great, we can't. We have school, he said as he patted her back, making her groan loudly and mumble something he couldn't quite catch into his neck. Fine. Stupid school, interrupting a perfectly good morning, Luna grumbled out as she sat up and put her hands on his bare chest as she arched her back to pop out the kinks in it. There's always the weekend for lazy mornings spent in bed, she told him, smiling down at him, slowly trailing a finger down his chest a bit before she moved both hands up to quickly ruffle his hair, making him smile up at her with his eyes closed. She had to really push herself to get off of him, finding it annoying to pull herself away as she enjoyed cuddling up to him far too much, especially when he was shirtless. Trust me, I know, there is always at least one sister in here like that, Naruto said as he sat up, watching Luna throw her legs over the side of the bed and stand up. I know, I always try and be at least one of the two sisters that are down here, given the only two at a time rule Mom set up to keep this place from being too crowded, Luna said, still annoyed of that rule at times as it meant if she wasn't quick enough, and if it wasn't a special occasion, she couldn't get a place on her second bed, something she called Naruto's bed due to how much she crashed on it. Yeah, well, you are the most consistent crasher, tied with Lucy and Lin, Naruto said as he noticed Luna's smirk on her face. Good. Who knows, maybe I'll eventually be able to sneakily move my things in here. I mean, I already got some clothes down here, Luna teased, looking through his wardrobe and the drawers on the inside before pulling out an outfit of hers. You and like half of the sisters all do. I limit it to 1 or 2 outfits per sister so I can still have room in there for my clothes, he said as given he shared his room with the washer and dryer, it made it easier for them to sometimes just leave their clothes down here at times. Yeah, thankfully no one else goes through it, or else they might question all the panties you have, Luna teased him, wiggling a pair of purple panties at him and smirked at him over her shoulder. True, that would be an odd conversation, but given our family I doubt anyone would be shocked to see things mixed up, Naruto chuckled, looking away with a blush as even if they were his sister's panties they were still a girl's panties. Well, I'm going to go change, don't fall back asleep on me or I'll be really annoyed, Luna told him with a chuckle and a joking glare as she took her clothes and headed upstairs to change in her room. At least it's Friday, Naruto thought to himself, getting up off his bed as he also popped his joints and quickly got dressed. He was still waking up as he stepped out of the basement, seamlessly walking through the chaos that was his house in the morning as he had several years of practice with it. Mom, where's my shoes? Lana yelled as she ran through the house before looking under the couch. Check near the back door, You took them off there when you came back in from playing in mud, Naruto yelled to his younger sister, as he started to pour himself a bowl of cereal once the milk was put back down, and quickly handed it off to another sister who wanted it. Thanks, Naruto, Lana yelled back before he heard her run off somewhere else to get ready. Getting ready in our house is always chaotic, but if there is one person who can help with getting everything together, then it's Naruto. He seems to know where everything is, Lincoln said, once again narrating before Naruto walked over and ruffled his hair while he held his bowl in his other hand. "'Cause I know what to look out for and notice, as our house is always a chaotic mess in the morning, little bro," Naruto said before he kept walking through the chaos before he sat down at the table. Hey Naruto? What do you do when the light suddenly turns red?" Luan asked as she quickly ran up to his side, bouncing excitedly, and seemingly having rushed to him the second she thought he was up, given her hair wasn't even done yet. "I don't know, Luan, what do you do when the light suddenly turns red?" he asked, smirking a bit as the look on her face showed she was really proud of this one. "You break fast. Get it?" Luan said, bursting into laughter herself as people around her groaned, but he couldn't help but laugh a bit at it. "Okay, I'll admit that was actually pretty good, but turn around so I can do your hair for you," Naruto said before Luan put her hands on her head, feeling the back of it before smiling as she seemingly didn't even notice she had forgotten to do her hair. "Guess I forgot. I was just really in a hurry since I just thought of that one and knew it was perfect," Luan said as she sat down in the chair next to him, handed him her yellow scrunchie, and he picked up a brush and started to brush her hair for her. "It's fine, wouldn't be the first time a joke made you forget something," he told her, continuing to brush her hair before he helped her put it in a ponytail for her. "Thanks, Naruto," Luan said as she turned around and hugged him, with him hugging her back. "Luan?" Naruto asked, stopping her as he raised an eyebrow at her with a smirk, as she tried to walk off before she turned back with a seemingly innocent smile. "Yes, big bro?" she asked with her hands behind her back and her head tilted to the side, trying her best to look innocent and cute before Naruto pointed behind him with his thumb. "Please take this off of me," he asked her, getting her to frown and snap her fingers with the TSK. "Dang it, I thought I finally got you this time," Luan grumbled before she removed the "kick me" sign off his back and crumbled it up. "Luan, that is the oldest trick in the book, a book I showed you. You are going to have to try harder than that," he told her as she pouted and crossed her arms. "I'll get you one day, I'll show you," she said before he hurried off, not noticing the "kick me" sign on her own back. She has a while to go before she challenges a master, Naruto thought, chuckling to himself before he heard the running of someone else, and a person crashed into him to hug him. "Good morning, Naruto," Leni said excitedly, giggling as she nuzzled against his back and hugged him tight. "Good morning, Leni, but be careful running in the house like that, okay?" he told her before blushing as she hugged him tighter, as he felt something he shouldn't be feeling if Leni was wearing something she was supposed to be. Leni? Not to be weird or anything, but are you wearing a bra?" Naruto whispered to her, looking over his shoulder before she let him go, allowing him to turn around to face her as she tilted her head to the side with her normal cute innocence. "What? Of course I am. See?" Leni said with a giggle as she started pulled down the neckline of her dress a bit, making Naruto's eyes turn wide given he knew she wasn't, before another set of hands stopped her. "Leni! Thank God I got here in time. Naruto is right, you did forget your bra, you left it on your bed," Lori said as she was somewhat panting, most likely from running downstairs to stop her sister, speaking in a whisper for the last part so no one overheard. "Oh. I'm sorry," Leni said with her ever-gentle smile, not reacting to the fact she almost flashed him her breasts. "I guess I'll go put it on," she added before getting up and walking upstairs. "God, I love Leni, but sometimes I swear she'll be the cause of me getting gray hairs before I turn 18, Lori said with a groan as she sat down in the chair next to him and collapsed onto the table a bit. "Glad I got here in time, or you would have seen more of Leni than you ever expected," she added, smirking over at him as she nudged his leg with hers. "Yeah, I was frozen as she was pulling down her neckline, one of those deer in headlight moments," he told her, smirking back at her as he nudged her back with his leg. I bet, Lori retorted with a chuckle before she frowned. Actually, I should probably go check on her and make sure she puts it on. Can you help get the kids in the van? She asked before Naruto nodded, having finished his cereal. Sure thing, as I am pretty good at it, he teased her a bit before he put his bowl in the sink and cleared his throat. Okay everyone. Last call. We are off to school, so finish up now and meet by the door, no excuses, he said in a loud tone, not yelling, as he made his way towards the door. I was so close to beating my hacky sack record, Lin whined out as it fell on the floor, making her frown up at him before he ruffled her hair. There is always time for that later, okay? Please don't play with it on the way to the car either, he told her, picking it up and handing it to her as she pocketed it and nodded with a smile. Fine, but after school you have to watch me break my record. It's only fair, she said, making Naruto roll his eyes while he couldn't help but smirk. Fine, I'll watch it, just get your butt to the van, he told her, gently tapping her butt with the side of his foot, getting her to stick her tongue out at him teasingly and running off to the car as Naruto stood by the door and watched as one by one he watched his sisters and brother walk out. Some of them were chuckling and giggling to themselves as they noticed Juan's kick me sign, smirking his way as they knew it was him who did it. He knew they'd take it off and show it to her once the youngest kids arrived at their school, as they wouldn't actually let her get potentially kicked or laughed at like that by other people. Okay, I got her, and this time she is definitely wearing it. Don't show him, Lori said as she guided Leni towards the door, lightly slapping her hand when she went to pull down her neckline again. Right, like don't show people my bra. I'll remember for sure next time, Leni said as she slapped her forehead with her hand while Lori rolled her eyes and continued to guide her to the van with Naruto following them once he made sure the house was locked. The drive to school was as calm as a van full of a bunch of kids could be, although Lori always did a great job to keep everyone under control to a point where they weren't too wild. Once the kids were dropped off at the elementary school, or middle school in Lincoln's case, the ride to the high school was much more relaxing. So today is a half day, right? Luna asked as she hopped out of the van, stretching before putting her hands behind her head as if she was relaxing with a smirk. Yeah, mainly just have to stick around for the pep rally, and then we are free, Naruto told her as Lin was the next to hop out of the van. You'll be cheering when I come out with my team, right? Lin asked as she looked around, already messing around with her hacky sack again. Of course we will, we always do, don't we? Naruto said, smirking as he kicked his foot up, stealing her hacky sack and kicked it around a bit before they started to kick it back and forth a bit. Sigh. These things always so bright and loud. The sooner it's over the better, Lucy droned out a bit as Naruto frowned and rubbed her back. It won't be so bad, at least I don't think so. If you really wanted to, you could go under the bleachers with Haiku and your friends, he suggested before Lucy shook her head. Despite my dislike towards it, I prefer to stay near family. Makes it more tolerable, Lucy added as Naruto gave her a one-armed hug with a smile, happy to see she chose family first. As they started to walk towards the school, Naruto perked up a bit as he saw a familiar figure running their way with a smile. The girl was Sam, a friend of his and Luna's and also a lover of rock like her. She had light blonde hair with a teal streak in the front with green eyes and pierced ears. She very much fit the rocker look with a white t-shirt with the RAF on it, a light blue leather jacket that had a skull patch on the back, purple ripped jeans, a black studded belt, and dark purple boots. Hey guys, morning, Sam said with a smile as she waved to them as the Louds piling out of the van was something she always could find early in the morning. Morning, Sam, I'm going to go catch up with Carol and Bobby. I'll meet up with you at the assembly, okay? Lori asked before he nodded, her giving him a quick hug before she walked off, his other sisters except for Luna doing the same, Lin throwing in a slug to his arm, shortly after. So with it being a half day, what are you guys planning to do after school lets out? I asked cause some of the guys were talking about having a jam sesh as a few of them got some new amps, Sam said, smiling as while rocking out wasn't Naruto's thing like it was hers or Luna's, he was still really skilled with a guitar given Luna's given him a lot of lessons. Plus I got a new pick that reminds me of you, she added, pulling out an orange pick that had a bit of a yellow tip to it and handing it to him. Ah, that's cute, Naruto said with a chuckle as took it from her hand and looked it over before handing it back, and it's tempting but I'll think about it. Luna, I'm sure will want to go, so if I don't, I'm sure one of us will go, he added, bumping his shoulder against his sister's as he knew better than anyone how almost impossible it was to keep Luna from a jam sesh. You sure, bro? It's always killer when we get to rock out together, Luna said as she draped her arm over his shoulder, smiling as she poked him in the stomach to try and urge him along to say yes. We'll see, as my boss had a worker text me about possibly picking up a shift, so until later I'm kind of in a limbo, Naruto said as he grabbed her hand and gave it a squeeze, trying to show her he'd love to but was unsure. Always the responsible kind, girls really like that in a guy, Sam told him as she nudged him with her elbow with a smile, while Naruto rolled his eyes. Yeah, I wish any girl who was interested in me with 10 sisters all around me, majority of which are rather protecting, he said before feigning a fake cough as he said Lori and Luna in between coughs. Some weren't bad at all, like Luan, Lana, Lisa, and of course Lily, but some were very protective, like everyone from Lin and upwards more or less. Dude, I am so not like that, Luna said, pouting as Naruto and Sam looked at her with a look as if they didn't believe her one bit. Well, at least I'm not as bad as Lori, she added, looking away with a slight blush on her face as with them looking at her like that it was impossible for her to really deny it. I don't worry about it, Luna, you and Lori mean well. It makes me happy knowing I have people looking out for me, he told her, draping his arm over her shoulder before ruffling her hair with a smile which only made her blush increase. Come on, bro, we don't want to be late, Luna said as she quickly slipped out of his arms and started to speed walk in front of him. Who knew Luna was the punctual type, Naruto told Sam, a bit confused as he followed after Luna, missing the sigh and shaking of Sam's head before she followed after them. But you know, if I can't make it today, I know I'm off Sundays, so you could always come hang out with me and Luna to jam, since I'm told my bedroom has some killer acoustics, he added, smiling behind him at Sam as she trailed a bit behind him. Sure, private jam sessions are even more fun, Sam said, smiling happily with a light blush as even if she couldn't hang out with him today, she now had Sunday to look forward to. The pep rally, like all pep rallies, was loud beyond belief as he sat with his sisters and a mismatched group of their and his friends all around them. It was common for things like this, as this was one of the few times all their groups were seen together. Ugh, these things are always so boring, Naruto groaned out, as with Lin's team leaving the gym that had been the only part to really pay attention to, before leaning back on his bleacher seat and against Lori's legs as he tilted his head back to look up at her. Tell me about it, Lucy said with a slight frown as she sat next to him, as Naruto, while unsure how this always happened, was in the middle with all his sisters around him. I know you too, they are literally the worst, but it'll be over soon, and then maybe we can go to Burpin Burger before the kids get out of school or something. I know you might be called in, but you can do that much at least, right? Lori told him as she looked down at him, absent-mindedly running her hands through his hair and playing with it, which was just one of those things that was normal when they were bored and around each other. Yeah, I can do at least that much, plus a burger sounds great right about now, Naruto said before he frowned as Leni clung to him tighter, as she had never been fond of the overly loud noise of the band mixed with how gyms always seemed to make them even louder. Doesn't that sound good, Leni? He asked her, trying to get her mind off the noise. Yeah. A milkshake sounds like totally perfect right now, Leni said, smiling happily as she looked to him and Lori. You're right, it does sound perfect, Lori said as she pet Leni's head for a moment before feedback screeched a bit and made everyone in the gym cringe at the sound. Okay, students. One last thing to announce, the principal said as she smiled and looked around at them. I know you all remember the raffle we put together last week, where all you had to do was fill out your name with a transcript of your grades given to you by your homeroom teacher showing you had at least an A in 4 of your classes, and you'd be put into a drawing to win a free limo service for a whole day. Well, we have the winner, she said, getting everyone to cheer as everyone who entered was excited and hoping they might be the winner. Well, I'm happy to announce that the winner is NarutoxLoud. she announced, everyone looking around to find him before he stared wide-eyed as everyone looked at him. Woo! Way to go, bro! Luan cheered, smacking his back from beside Lori above him, getting him to stand up as he was shocked to be the winner. He absent-mindedly removed the kick me sign off him and crumbled it up, not noticing Luan tisk ing again at her failure, while the other sisters rolled their eyes at her as he walked down to the center of the gym. He felt a bit embarrassed with all eyes on him as everyone applauded and cheered him while he made his way down there. Congratulations, Naruto, on winning. Just goes to show you that good grades pay off, she told the gym of students before leaning over to him and holding the mic away from her a bit. All you have to do is call the number on the back and pick a day. They told us it was really easy, she told him, smiling at him as she squeezed his shoulder before she handed him an envelope which, as he peeked inside, contained a yellow ticket. Now let's hear it one more time for Naruto, the principal said to the students, making them cheer loudly again as he looked up and smiled for a photo with her for the school paper. He was on autopilot as he walked back to his sisters, all there and his friends congratulating him as he sat back down. Wow, can't really say this pep assembly is boring anymore, can I? He asked with a chuckle as his sisters chuckled alongside him. Wait until Mom, Dad, and the others hear about this. They literally will not believe it, Lori said, shaking him excitedly as Naruto nodded as Leni grabbed his arm and tugged at his sleeve a bit. You'll take us with you, won't you? Leni asked with a frown as he chuckled and ruffled her hair to get her to stop frowning. Of course I will, Leni. I'll be taking all my siblings as there is no way I wouldn't enjoy it with all of you, he said with a smile before all of his sisters quickly moved in to hug him from all angles, even the stoic Lucy. The pep assembly was a blur for him after winning the raffle, and before he knew it they were at Burp & Burger as they waited for the kids to get out of school, given they had a full day of school unlike them. The majority of the friends from school had left, but Sam had asked to tag along until the jam sesh, which was more than okay with them. I still can't believe you won, Naruto. Shame I wasn't in the gym at the time, Lin said as she tossed her fry into the air before quickly moving her head to catch it in her mouth, as after years of practicing and missing she had reached a point where she got them and more often than she missed them. So when do you think you are going to use it? Luan asked, dipping a fry in her milkshake before popping it into her mouth. I'm thinking tomorrow, honestly. Otherwise I'd be way too excited throughout the week until the next weekend, he told them as he took the pickles off his burger, handing them to Luna, and took a bite of his burger. Plus I know I'm off tomorrow, so it's for the best, Naruto said, pulling out his phone and the ticket as he looked to his sisters, silently asking if they agreed before they all nodded. The call was easy to make and simple to set up as he chose to have the day start at 8 a.m. so it could end at 10 p.m., which allowed for 15 hours to enjoy the limo, as given they were kids they couldn't quite use it for a full day. He of course had called his parents beforehand and, like Lori had said, they were beyond surprised but excited that he won and allowed them to stay out until 10. The younger kids, which were Lana, Lola, Lisa, and Lily, would have to come home at 7 p.m. for dinner. Wait until the little ones hear about this. They are going to flip. It's going to feel like we are rock stars, dude, Luna said as she was practically almost bouncing in her seat from excitement, while Naruto already could hear bits of her British accent leaking out. Hell, we could pick up Sam and really get the jams bumping, she added, draping her arm over Sam's shoulder and pulling her in close to her with a large smile on her face. You don't have to, as isn't this more a family thing? Sam said, blushing a bit as Luna held her close to her a bit while also leaning her head against hers. Oh Sam, don't be so nervous, you're a friend, so you're more than welcome to come along. You just have to meet us somewhere that we can pick you up from, Lori said with a smile, trying to ease Sam's worry as she understood how she must be feeling like she was somehow intruding despite being invited by Luna. Yes Sam, it honestly isn't a bother, so don't stress out so much. While we do enjoy doing things as a family, we don't keep things just to us, as the more is always the merrier with the Louds, Naruto told her, smiling at her as she nodded a bit nervously. Also, I'm glad you are so excited, Luna, but I still want to do things that you and the others want to. I mean, I'm not going to hog it, nor do I have a bunch of plans, so we should easily be able to do some stuff that each of you want to, Naruto told them, allowing Leni to snack on his fries since with his siblings whenever they went out to eat fries were basically shared among all of them. "Ah, you are just too sweet to us, Naruto," Lori said as she hugged her brother tightly as he chuckled. "Well, whatever we do first is going to be something you want since you did win this," she added, giving him a look that told him not to argue as despite his extreme kindness of letting them each have an activity to do with the limo, she was going to make certain he got to enjoy it most of all. "Oh gosh, I just remembered I need to head to work," Leni said as her phone started to chime, her having set a reminder. She had only just recently gotten a job at the Reiningers department store. At first the family was worried due to how Leni was, but they were confident she could handle it after Naruto had kept an eye on her during one day of her work. "Lori, can you drive me there?" she asked, looking to Lori with puppy dog eyes as Lori sighed and set down her drink. "Also, could you drop me off at my gig? I'm booked at the local nursing home as well. I believe it's on the way," Luan told her, as she too had a job of a comedian and had booked a gig on a half day as it was an extra chance to make some money, although her asking only made Lori groan. "Fine, but are you guys going to come with?" Lori asked before the other siblings looked at each other before Naruto shook his head. "I'm fine, you can come back once you are done. We'll keep your food safe, give or take a few fries, plus Burpin Burger is close to the other schools, so it's a great place to wait for the kids," Naruto told her as Luna nodded as well. "We will hold down the fort, big sis," Luna added with a salute as Lori chuckled as she stood up and grabbed her drink. "I'll be back in a bit. If the kids show up, tell them to be patient, and we'll get them something when I get back. Also, don't tell them about it until I get back. I want to see the looks on their faces," Lori told them with an excited smile before she left with Leni and Luan, not before each of them gave Naruto a hug. "You and your siblings really get along. It's so different from me and my brother, as we just seem to argue a lot," Sam said as Luna laughed at that and patted her on the back. "Oh, trust me, we all argue and fight like crazy. The only one who doesn't seem to do that is Naruto, and our parents are thankful for that," Luna said with a chuckle, draping her arm over Naruto's shoulder and pulling him up against her where they were now cheek to cheek. "Well, I just feel you shouldn't fight with family. Plus, the most any of them really do is annoy and exhaust me, so there is no need to get into a fight," he told Sam, poking Luna's cheek as he draped an arm over her shoulder while Luna couldn't help but smile happily. "Yes, our brother truly is sanctuary in the chaotic world that our family. Plus his room is spooky," Lucy said, making a bat design on her burger as Luna patted Naruto on the back before they pulled apart, and Sam chuckled at their interaction as she had been to their house a few times and crazy was an apt description of things in that house. Sam though had to leave after a bit, their friends coming to pick her up for the jam sesh while Luna decided to stay with Naruto. "So I guess I'll see you tomorrow?" Sam said, still unsure about being invited to the limo drive given she felt like she was intruding on a private family thing. "Yes, you will, and stop worrying," Naruto said as he waved her off. "We'll pick you up outside your place, or do you have somewhere else better in mind?" he asked before Sam thought for a second and nodded. "Yeah, it'd be the easiest I guess as long as you are really certain about me coming along," she said as he and Luna groaned. "Yes, we are sure, stop worrying so much," Luna said with a chuckle while Sam blushed a bit from embarrassment before going forward to hug the two of them. "Okay then. Thanks, and I'll see you tomorrow," Sam said, giving them time to hug her back, before she rushed off to their friend's van and waved one last time to them before getting in. "Sam needs to seriously chill," Lin said as they sat back down and snatched up Naruto's soda and taking a sip of it, getting a flat look from Naruto despite him being used to it. He never understood it, but some of his sisters just always seemed to take his drinks, even if they had the same kind or more soda than him. Thankfully, refills never cost anything at fast food places. "Well, how would you feel if someone was doing a big family thing and you got invited? You'd feel like the third wheel of sorts. We'll just have to make sure we make her feel welcomed and in place," Naruto said, snatching his soda back as Lin gave him a smile that showed she was somewhat sorry, but he knew she'd still do it again the second he looked away. He started to feel excited as his siblings started showing up a good bit after Lori returned from dropping Leni and Luan off at their jobs. Once everyone was there, he was finally able to reveal the surprise he had told them about. No way! You want a limo ride all day, Naruto? Lincoln asked, standing up excitedly, slamming his hands on the table as he looked at him with almost stars in his eyes a bit. Yes, now sit down before we get kicked out, Lori scolded her before Lincoln quickly sat down with a bit of blush on his face, though no one could blame him as everyone seemed excited for it. So it is going to be happening tomorrow? Seriously? Lola asked, clearly as excited as the others, as a limo ride was beyond fancy and luxurious. Yeah, I figured tomorrow would be best as no one works then, and Mom and Dad already gave us the okay. It starts at 8 a.m. so we'll have plenty of time to enjoy it, so you all need to go to bed early. You got it, Naruto told them, getting nods from everyone. So what are we going to do with the limo? Lana asked as she sprayed a ton of ketchup all over her fries to where it seemed like more ketchup than fries, but then again with Lana that wasn't surprising. Anything you all want. I want you all to enjoy it as much as I do, so while we will start with something I want, we will take turns doing stuff all of you want as long as it doesn't take up that much time, okay? He told them before he widened his eyes as he saw all of his siblings from Lincoln and younger dive at him for a hug, knocking him off his chair as he groaned under the mosh pile that was a Loud family hug. Oh, maybe I should start wearing a helmet for moments like these, Naruto grumbled out, looking up to Lori and Luna as they merely smirked as they stood above him. He though quickly blushed a bit as Lori moved over to help him, as with Luna wearing a skirt he had a clear view up it. Much like with Leni this morning, his eyes were again stuck in a deer in headlights moment where he couldn't look away, noticing she wasn't wearing the pair she put on this morning, as these ones were much more mature to where they seemed almost see-through. Thankfully though, her skirt kept him from seeing through it, and he was able to look away as Lori, pulling him up after helping the kids get off him, snapped him out of his daze. Come on guys, Mom has told you all not to dogpile Naruto like that, especially in public or when there's a hard surface under him like tile floors, Lori told them, helping dust Naruto off as Naruto shook his head, trying to shake off the sight he just saw before his siblings grabbed his arms. Can we really each do something with limo? They asked before Naruto gently pulled his arms out of their grasps and ruffled each of their heads with a smile. Of course. I'm not going to hog it the entire time, he told them, which only made them hug him again, only this time not knock him over. Okay. As much as it's always sweet to see you all hug on Naruto, we do need to finish up eating and go home, as Mom also said if you don't get your homework done you can't go, Lori said, clapping her hands to get their attention. Naruto had seen his siblings eat fast, but this was an entirely different level that had him shocked. By the time they got home, all of them rocketed to their rooms, save for Lisa, given she had no homework. Wow, never seen them move that fast. They must really want to be able to go on the limo ride, his mom said, smiling as she came to give him a hug. And congratulations on winning your prize, sweetie. Your father and I are very proud of you for you being rewarded for your good grades, she added while he hugged her back. Thanks, Mom. I'm just surprised I won, he told her before she pulled away a bit, her arms still on his shoulders. Honey, you are incredibly lucky. Your father teases about you having the devil's luck all the time, as every time I let you spin the wheel at any store's event you always won. I'm just glad you don't abuse it, Rita said, teasing him as she ruffled his hair while wiping a fake tear from her eye that only made him roll his eyes at. Yeah, Dad though says when I turn 21 he's taking me to a casino, Naruto told her, making her laugh a bit and nod. Sounds like your father, she said with sigh. I know they didn't give you homework on a half day, but make sure anything else they gave you earlier in the week is done, okay? She added as she wanted to make sure everything was done for him as well. Got it, though I might be called in. Not entirely sure, so we'll see, he said as she nodded and patted his cheek. Well, still, try and get whatever you can, if you have anything done, she said before letting him head down to his room. In the end he did get called into work, and, like always, it was peaceful. When his boss heard about his limo ride, he basically begged Naruto to come in to eat with his family with the limo, as he knew how much it would boost his store. Of course he somewhat planned to, as his work was one of the few places that could handle the full Louds. The rest of the day went rather quickly, with him returning home, having dinner, and going to bed with no sister bunking with him, which was probably due to the fact they were all excited for tomorrow. In the end, he was able to get some sleep before he woke up to his alarm, which he set an hour and a half before limo arrived so he could get breakfast ready for everyone to get the day started off right. He though found himself having his third deer in headlights moment as he stared at his sister Lori with her shirt off and her bra halfway on where it was covering her breasts, but she hadn't put the straps over her shoulders, so she was holding it in place with her hands. Lori was easily described as beautiful and considered as one of, if not the, hottest girl in Royal Woods High. Right now he easily and definitely understood why and how as she stood there, her D-cup breasts pressed a bit as she held her bra in place while showing bountiful cleavage due to her bra not being completely on. "Morning, Naruto," Lori said, her tone shaky but somewhat calm as she stood there frozen, getting him look up from her chest with a dark blush as he nodded stiffly as he too was frozen in place on his bed. "Morning, Lori, what are you doing here so early?" he asked as he was making a mental and conscious effort not to have his eyes trail down again towards her chest. "My good bra ended up down here, so I figured I could change before you woke up. I'm up this early cause I wanted to make sure everything was ready for when we went on the limo. Why are you up so early?" Lori asked as he coughed into his fist and rubbed the back of his head while he looked away. "I wanted to make breakfast for everyone before they got up," he said, which got her to smile a bit. "Well, that is very sweet of you, Naruto, but I shouldn't expect anything different from you," she said, smiling sweetly at him, a blush still on her face from the situation they were stuck in. Naruto could only nod, not really sure what to say or do, as sure he had walked in on sisters in the past, but normally it was easy to just turn around and run out while apologizing, and it was never this bad before. Though the second Naruto's eyes trailed down again, looking back at Lori's cleavage, he quickly turned around and got off his bead, somewhat startling Lori as he started to walk out. "I'm making breakfast," he said, a bit stiffly before he left, and closed the door behind him. The second the door was closed, unknown to the other, they both squatted down a bit and buried their faces in their hands with blushes that were so dark they turned their ears dark red. "God, what is up with things recently?" Naruto yelled in his head, a blush still on his face as these weird scenarios just kept happening to him recently, and he had no idea why. Leni was easy to chalk up to her being forgetful and innocent, but Luna's upskirt, and this just now with Lori, wasn't so easily written off. He tried his best to shake the image of Lori's breasts out of his mind, going to start cooking breakfast for the family, and occasionally shaking his head when it started to reappear in his head. He also didn't turn around when he heard his bedroom door open and close, as he knew if he looked at Lori right now he'd start to blush and remember again. It seemed though that the smell of food mixed with the excitement of the limo ride was enough to get all of siblings up by 7. Breakfast was also seemingly devoured as their excitement was making them do everything fast to make sure they were ready by the time the limo showed up. "Hey bro, you think I should bring my mini amps for the limo?" Luna asked as she hugged him from behind as he sat at the table, her arms around his neck and her head on top of his. "Just 2, one for you and one for Sam, unless you think she'll bring hers," he told her before she nodded and gave him a quick hug. "Got it, thanks bro," she yelled as she ran up to her room, weaving through several other running siblings who were all trying to get things ready as the time the limo was supposed to show up at was getting closer and closer. "Okay girls. The limo is supposed to be showing up in 5 minutes. Don't forget anything and be ready," Naruto yelled through the house as he leaned against the door as he saw a few sisters like Lori, Luna, Luan, Lisa, and Lily all waiting in the living room while everyone else was still scrambling around to get everything together. "Hey Naruto?" Lori asked as she walked up to him, a soft blush on her face that he quickly grew as well once looking up at her. "I just wanted to say sorry for this morning. I should have gotten changed in my room," she apologized, whispering as she didn't want anyone to overhear them. "Don't worry about it really, you had no idea I had an alarm set," he told her before she hugged him, glad he was so understanding and was quick to brush it off. "Well, at least in the end you got to see a real good sight, right? Not many have seen that, so I hope you liked it," Lori teased with a smirk, a light blush still on her cheek as she moved to his side and hugged his arm with a smirk. What? Naruto stuttered out before Lori laughed a bit with a smile, while elbowing his stomach playfully. Oh, relax, Naruto. I was teasing you, she said as she gave him a wink and walked off, giggling a bit while Naruto crossed his arms and grumbled a bit. His grumbling was short-lived as a fancy honk from outside alerted them that the limo had arrived, and no sooner than a second later all of his sisters were excitedly in front of him waiting for him to open the door. Okay girls, please don't charge in there right away, Naruto said, trying to calm them down as they looked like they were about to explode. We won't, as we all agreed we'd let you get in first, so hurry, Lola said, pushing him off the door as he chuckled and opened the door. Okay, Lola, no need to push, Naruto said as he walked out to see a man in a black chauffeur suit open the back door to the black limo he had arrived in. Good morning, sir, I'm Kirby, your personal chauffeur for the day, Kirby said, introducing himself as Naruto held out his hand towards him. Nice to meet you, Kirby, but drop the sir stuff. Naruto is fine, and personally I'd suggest hiding behind the door, Naruto said, getting a confused look from Kirby as he entered. Naruto was instantly impressed by the limo, it seeming so much bigger and longer on the inside as he noticed a large assortment of snacks and drinks near one side and what seemed to be a small jacuzzi as well. As his sisters ran in nearly a second later, he was glad Kirby heeded his advice. The second they got in, they were swarming the place, with Lola jumping into the jacuzzi as she had worn her waterproof dress, while Luna quickly figured out how to get the disco ball down from the ceiling as well as the flat screen to slide out from above the jacuzzi along the window. He though chuckled as Juan played peekaboo with Lily using the divider screen between the front seats and the back area. I want to go pick up my team when it's my turn, Lynn said as she had her baseball glove on and tossed her baseball into it a few times. I want to go to the mall, Leni said excitedly as Lucy moved down from looking out the window beside her. I know a funeral procession we can ride in, Lucy said before Lori sat down beside him in the back and whistled to get their attention. Guys, I know you're all excited, trust me I am too, but we agree Naruto first, then we all will pick the order of which we go, Lori said, holding up a top hat that she had borrowed from one that she had put pieces of folded up paper with numbers 1 to 12 on them as Sam was still coming. Okay, so what do you want to do first, bro? Juan asked as she got out of the front seat and sat next to Lily. Well, before I pick, I believe we have to pick up Sam, Naruto told them as Kirby got into the front seat. Tell me the address and I'll take you there. I'll even wait to start your timer until we get there, as long as it isn't far, as I'm so used to driving around snobby guys, Kirby said, tossing off his hat and showing a bit of a Brooklyn accent with his relaxed nature and kind gesture, getting them all to smile at him. Thanks, man. It's real close, I promise, Luna said as she slid up to the front and gave Kirby the address for Sam's place, and as they pulled up, Kirby got out to open the door for Sam as she nervously walked into it. Wow, this is so cool, Sam said in awe before she set her guitar case down next to Luna's. Thanks again for letting me come along, she added as Lori gave her a one-armed hug as she sat down next to her and Luna. Don't worry about it, Sam. Just enjoy the limo, Lori said, getting Sam to relax a bit before everyone looked to Naruto again. So bro, where to? She asked as Naruto rubbed his chin in thought. I have somewhere in mind, but it ties into where Leni wants to go since the video game shop is in the mall. Is that okay? Naruto asked, getting a gasp of happiness from Leni before he grunted as Leni crashed into him for a hug. Oh, thank you, Naruto, we get to go to the mall, Leni said with stars in her eyes as she hugged and nuzzled against him. Well, with that I can't say no, but that means Leni is sharing her turn with you, Lori said before Lisa softly cleared her throat. With there being 12 of us, as I am not counting Lily, which then becomes 11 considering how Leni and Naruto are sharing their turn. That gives us each roughly 81 minutes of the 900 minutes we are given for our turns if we plan to use the whole allotted time like I figure Leni will, Lisa said as every looked to each other. Well, I was planning for my turn to be used for dropping me off at a pageant with you all picking me up afterwards. I want the limo to intimidate all my competition, Lola said with a slightly evil laugh while Lisa nodded along. I too had a similar plan as I am scheduled to give a lecture at the university, and was wishing to be dropped off only to be picked up after. I feel a limo would give those attending a feel for how important I am, Lisa said, adjusting her glasses as she looked to the others. With my team we do have a game, so I guess I'm in the same boat of wanting to be picked up later, but I want to pick them up as well. I kind of asked Mom to call my coach beforehand. I figured it'd really pump up and boost morale and also intimidate the other team, Lin said with a slight nervous smile due to not asking if she could do something like this beforehand as Naruto chuckled and ruffled her hair to show it was okay. So there will be 8 people using the limo for actual things and not just being dropped off. Got it? How much time does that give everyone? Luna asked as she turned to Lisa. Roughly 12.5 minutes each or 8 hours each, and that's if we are going with the estimate of everyone using the full time, which I doubt we will, she explained as Lori waved her hands. It doesn't matter, let's just enjoy the time and not go counting minutes. Lisa, Lin, and Lola, just tell us when your events are and we can easily fit them in, right? Lori asked as Naruto nodded. Of course, so Kirby, if you would be so kind, start the timer and off to Royal Woods Mall, Naruto said as Kirby gave a salute and started a timer over his radio that had 15 in the hour slot. Sure thing, pal, off we go, Kirby said while everyone cheered as the limo drove on. I seriously can't believe this, it is so cool, Lincoln said with an excited smile as Lola got out of the jacuzzi with Leni handing her a towel. Well, believe it, little bro, cause this will one day be my life when I make it big, Luna said as she pumped her fists into the air, her hands doing the rock on symbol. And when it is, I'll invite you all along whenever you want, she added with a smile which got everyone to smile as well since they all believed in each other's dreams. Well, us both in a way, Sam said as she too dreamt of being a rock star. Maybe you and Luna will end up in a band together. I wouldn't doubt it since you both are great musicians and singers, Naruto told them, making Sam blush a bit and smile as Luna grew a massive smile. It always makes me happy to see my #1 fan believe in me, Luna teased as she blew him a kiss. We've arrived at Royal Woods Mall, everybody, Kirby said as Lana looked out the window. Whoa, that was fast, she said before Kirby chuckled and opened the door for them. You'd be how little traffic there is for a limo, it comes in handy, Kirby told them with a wink as they walked out. Actually, do you think I could get dropped off at my lecture? It is quite soon, Lisa said, looking to Naruto who nodded. Sure thing, I'll drop you off and come right back. Does that sound good, Naruto? Kirby asked while Naruto nodded again. It's totally fine as I feel you'll be back before we even get out. Just be sure to call me when you need to be picked up and enjoy the empty limo, Naruto told her, ruffling her hair as she smiled softly with a nod. Of course, brother, she said as Kirby closed the door and went back to the driver's seat. Well, let's enjoy the mall as limo riders, Naruto said as the siblings cheered and all rushed into the mall. Going to the mall while having ridden in a limo was a bit different from just normally going to the mall, as the second they showed up they had people whispering and trying to make things easiest for them. It even somehow got him a discount on all the games he was buying, which of course prompted him to get a few more games that he had his eye on but had originally decided to hold off on. With how this went, he had decided to go into the computer store and check out some things there, getting the parts he needed for his computer at insanely cheap prices, which was amazing given the normal price those parts usually were. It felt a bit odd but also nice, even if he knew it was only because of the limo, but it was something to enjoy while he had it. Dude, Sam and I just got a discount at the music shop for like everything we wanted and a few things they gave to us for free. Is being in a limo awesome or what? Luna said as she and Sam had bags in their hands. Same here, this was the best shopping I've ever had, Leni said with a happy giggle as she hugged Naruto again and nuzzled into his chest again with a large number of bags in hand. Yeah, it was literally insane, and I'm glad we didn't go to Reininger's as I would feel bad with the amount of discounts we got, Lori said as she also had nearly as many bags as Leni did. I've never had so many comics before, Lincoln said, clearly in bliss as he had a large stack of comics in a box that he was carrying around. So I take it everyone enjoyed their shopping? Naruto asked. His sisters and brother all nodded enthusiastically as they were seemingly overjoyed at the shopping they had accomplished. Okay, then back to the limo, he declared as all his siblings, as well as Sam, cheered and they made their way back. Wow, seems like you guys got a nice haul, Kirby said with an impressed whistle before he opened the trunk for them to put their things in and closed it. So where to next? Kirby asked, opening the door for them as both Lola and Lin raised their hands. Oh, are your things at the same time? Naruto asked as he let his siblings go inside before him. Well, we still have to pick up my team so we can drop off Lola first, and then go to get my team. Is that okay? Lin asked Lola before her younger sister nodded. Sounds perfect, Lola said, clearly giddy at the idea of showing up to a pageant in a limo, and what kind of effect that would be on everyone. Once Lola was dropped off, once again having been told like Lisa to call when she was done, it was Lin's turn. Once her team, and coach, were in the limo, Naruto was relatively surprised to see everyone being calm other than a rowdy pregame chant. Once they arrived, though, they charged out of the limo, it having boosted their morale, and after a quick hug from Lin before she left, a pregame superstition of hers, he and the others cheered for her one last time as she and her team went towards the field. The rest of their limo trip was exciting and a bit of a blur, from Juan taking them to a prank and novelty store where he and Juan stocked up for the eventual yearly April Fool's War, to Lucy enjoying acting like a dead body as she asked Kirby to drive as slow as he could in front of a cemetery. It eventually became time for them to pick up the sisters they had dropped off, and next thing he knew it was even time to drop off Lily and the younger siblings off with their parents. So what now? It's almost getting to the end of our time with the limo, Naruto told the others, snacking on some of the burpin burger that they all had gotten before they had to drop off the younger siblings. Oh, don't worry, bro, I've got something in mind, Luna said as she leaned forward from her seat and pulled out her guitar from its case and set it on her lap. Ready for a little private concert, Sam? She said, smirking over to her friend as she seemed to have the same idea as she had already started to pull hers out of its case. You just sit there and watch, bro, we'll rock all of your socks off, Luna said with a wink, as she started to mess with her guitar and tune it as she sat across from him on one of the rows of seats on either side of the limo. I don't doubt it, Naruto said, smiling at her as she continued to work on her guitar. He watched her as she strummed it a bit. He was honestly always surprised and amazed at how talented Luna was when it came to music. Sure, she had taught him a bit, but he was mediocre compared to her. Just watching her strum her guitar was nice to see, as it always seemed natural in her hands. As he watched, he quickly blushed as he noticed her legs starting to spread, which gave him a clear view up her skirt. He was never one to peek up skirts, but he was a bit confused as to what Luna was doing, as it almost seemed like she was doing it because he was looking. But she wouldn't do that, would she? In his confusion and shock from it, he ended up staring a bit too long, allowing him to see just what she was wearing, and if by how small the front of panties were, his mind immediately went to a thong. Hell, the front was so small he swore he saw bits of hair sticking out the top. That bit of visual info was enough to turn him beet red and shake his head as he snapped out of it, hoping to God that no one saw him staring up his sister's skirt. Lori, though, glared at Luna. While not noticing Naruto had seen up Luna's skirt, she did notice Luna's choice of panties and how she had them spread towards Naruto. What does Luna think she is doing? Wear a thong and spreading her legs in front of Naruto? Lori thought, not liking how Luna has been recently, as she had noticed that Luna did the same thing in burpin burgers yesterday. As they finished setting up, Lori felt she might have to keep an eye on Luna, since she knew once he was revealed to not be blood-related, things might change with a few of the sisters. Alright everyone. Let's give this limo ride a rocking send-off. Luna cheered as she and Sam started rocking out on their guitars up in the middle of the limo, the disco ball spinning above her as lights shined from it. Everyone cheered as the music played, Luna and Sam dancing a bit as they played. Naruto was beyond glad he had won this limo, as he always loved and enjoyed family moments like these, as even in the chaos of a big family he loved that kind of chaos. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story, And also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.